The drive back from the farmer's market is a strange kind of quiet, the type that feels more comfortable than awkward, even though neither of us is speaking. Mike's driving, but I can feel the tension between Harley and me. She's sitting there beside me, her hands comfortably clasped together on her lap, and the world feels too small with her so close. Every so often, my gaze drifts to her, and I can't help but notice how her thoughts seem just as tangled as mine. I want to reach for her. I want to touch her and reassure her in some way. But after everything that's happened, I know pushing too far, too fast, might send her running. I've learned that much from her body language already. She looks unsettled. No, more than that. She's on edge. I can see it in the way she avoids meeting my eyes, how she leans back in the seat just a little too far, like she's trying to put distance between us after our sexual tension at the picnic table, even though we're right here, close enough to touch. I've been here before, not with her, not like this, but I've been on the edge of something dangerous before, something I couldn't control. And I refuse to push her into the abyss, even if it means waiting, something I despise doing. Mike clears his throat as if sensing the shift, but he doesn't say anything. His usual sense of humor seems to have dissipated, replaced by a knowing calm. Heading home? He asks after about 5 minutes, his eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror. Harley's voice is the one that breaks the silence. Actually, we're heading to my local grocery store, Mike, she says, and the gleam in her eyes makes it clear she's enjoying this strange, normal part of her life that she's trying to pull me into. Mike almost chokes on the lemonade she handed him when we got back to the car at her announcement. I can't blame him, though. A grocery store isn't the kind of place I'd ever be caught dead at. But Harley? She seems right at home in a place like that. She's still grinning, but I can see her trying to rein it in, like she's afraid to get too comfortable around me, to let herself enjoy this moment. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I know one thing for sure. She's not as unaffected by me as she pretends to be. Case in point, when we were feeding each other back at the farmer's market. Are you serious? Mike asks, catching his breath. You're taking him to a grocery store? Harley chuckles. Why not? It's a normal thing to do, right? I lean back, studying her face. That's the thing about Harley. She has a way of making the most mundane, everyday things seem like an adventure. And as much as I'd rather be anywhere else, I can't deny that the thought of spending time with her, doing something as trivial as grocery shopping, feels oddly right. The SUV pulls up to the store, and as Mike parks, I find myself struggling with an urge to touch her. But I hold back, unsure of what exactly she wants from me. She steps out first, her hips swaying as she walks toward the entrance. I follow her, my footsteps heavy and deliberate, but I make sure to stay a few feet behind, letting her take the lead. The moment we walk in, I realize how out of my element I am. The smell of freshly baked bread, the sounds of kids running up and down the aisles, the PA system announcing current specials, the fluorescent lighting above, it's all so ordinary. But it doesn't feel ordinary when she's with me. Every step she takes, every glance she throws over her shoulder at me, feels like a step into unknown territory. She hands me the pushcart, and without thinking, I take it from her. In the first aisle, she suddenly bends over to grab a pack of pasta, and her jeans hug her curves in a way that makes my heart rate spike, and I have to look away to avoid making a fool of myself in public. The SUV rolls to a stop in front of my townhouse, and for a moment, I just sit there, staring out the side window. The weight of everything that has happened today still feels too great to process. My head is a mess of too much information and too many emotions all tangled together. Thane opens the door and steps out, but I don't move to follow him right away. I'm trying to keep my breath steady and to keep myself grounded. However, the irritation that had bubbled inside me from earlier at the grocery store still lingers at the back of my mind like an infuriating itch. The cashier at the store. Yeah, I'm still salty about that. Thane didn't encourage it, and he didn't even acknowledge her flirty tone. But the fact that someone else was interested in him, and right in front of me, it hits me in a way I didn't expect. I've never felt possessive before, but damn, does it sting. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it does. I eventually push myself out of the car and step out into the sunshine, taking a deep breath as I force myself to focus on the day ahead. A normal day, a day that's nothing like the one I've had. Thane and Mike help me gather up the grocery bags, and I can't help but notice how easily they both handle it. Thane's movements are fluid and effortless, and it's like watching a force of nature. The way he stands, the way he carries the bags, even though some of them are heavy, is something poets could write sonnets about. His biceps strain beneath his shirt, but he doesn't even flinch. And when I catch myself staring, I quickly look away. It's crazy how well he's adapted to all of this. All of it. Me, my life, my world. He's a man who's used to control, to power, and yet here he is, carrying grocery bags with ease as if he's been doing it for years. Not exactly the image I had of him when we first met. Once I've unlocked the front door, they follow me in with ease. We reach the kitchen, and after placing his bags on the kitchen island, Mike heads off outside to leave us alone. I'm unpacking the bags when I feel Thane's gaze on me. It's quiet and unhurried, but it's there, and it's making me feel a certain kind of way, like I'm the only thing he can focus on in this moment. I've got everything in front of me. Vegetables, cans, dairy, all that mundane stuff. And yet I can't shake the feeling of his presence as he stands in the archway between the kitchen and the living room. Every time I turn to grab something from the counter, I feel him behind me. It's not a bad thing per se, it's just overwhelming. As soon as I've shut the fridge door after packing the last of the perishable stuff away, I hear him step closer to me. His warmth, his presence, fills the space behind me. And then I feel his right hand's fingers brush along my jawline, light but deliberate, as he pushes a lock of hair behind my ear. With his left hand on my hip, his voice drops, low and soft, as he says into my ear, "Come home with me for the rest of the afternoon. Let me show you my place, and we can have a late lunch together. I want to treat you." Something about the way he says it, like he's pleading but not saying it outright, twists something in my chest. My mind immediately goes into overdrive. I want to say no. I want to push him away because I'm not sure I'm ready for any more of this. But at the same time, there's this undeniable pull I can't ignore. I'm about to open my mouth and politely decline when his eyes meet mine over my shoulder, and suddenly it's like I can't breathe. There's something about the way he's looking at me, so intense, so raw, that it shuts down every other thought I was trying to have. I've already got lunch planned out. I hedge, trying to keep the conversation light. I could just make it here. But he doesn't relent. "No, let me treat you, Harley. For once, let me show you what it's like when I'm the one who takes care of you." It's hard to ignore the way the words roll off his tongue, how soft they are, how they almost sound like he's begging without actually saying it. And damn it, I'm starting to melt a little. The thoughts that swirl around in my head don't help either. I know he's being sincere, but I also know I'm not ready for any of this. Yet, there's this deep, instinctual part of me that just wants him. I look at him for a moment, then at my left hand, which has, without notice, found its way to his, where it's still holding onto my hip as if it's a lifeline of sorts. I'm touching him, and I don't even know why, but my heart suddenly starts racing, like my body's given in long before my mind has. I make my decision then, without even fully understanding it. I nod slowly, my voice barely above a whisper. "Okay?" The small smile that spreads across his face could melt glaciers, making his eyes light up. And for the first time since knowing him, I see something like genuine happiness in him. It makes my chest tighten. Because now I'm not just drawn to him physically, I'm drawn to him emotionally too. I try to ignore the tiny flutter in my stomach as I grab my bag off the kitchen counter ready to leave with him. But then I catch myself. I'm doing this. I'm going to his place. And as I lead him out of the kitchen and toward the front door, I can't help but think that maybe I'm in way deeper than I ever intended to be. The SUV hums softly beneath us as we cruise through the streets, the sound of the tires on asphalt providing an oddly soothing backdrop to the chaos swirling behind my ribs. Mike's driving, calm as ever, with the occasional glance in the rearview mirror that tells me he's aware of the energy that's crackling in the air. I, on the other hand, can barely keep my mind still. Harley, she's with me, and she's sitting next to me. I can't quite believe it. Not after everything that's happened in the past 24 hours. Not after my bite. Not after everything I've tried to bury and the feelings I've tried to ignore. But here she is, sitting next to me, agreeing to spend the afternoon at my place. I let out a slow breath through my nose, trying to rein in the excitement that's flooding my veins. But there's a quiet tension just below the surface, too. Something that's gnawing at the edges of my focus. What if she doesn't like my place? What if it's too much? Or not enough? I glance at her and watch as she leans back against the leather back seat, her eyes half-lidded, with a slight smile playing at the corner of her lips. She's the picture of ease. And even though she's too beautiful for words, there's a soft wariness about her. Something I can't quite place. Is she nervous too? The sudden need to hold her hand surges up from somewhere deep inside me, unexpected and raw. And without overthinking it, I reach out slowly and brush my fingers lightly against hers where they're resting on her lap. The moment my hand touches hers, a spark ignites, something electric that makes my heart skip a beat. To my surprise, though, she doesn't pull away. Instead, her fingers tighten around mine just a little. It's a simple gesture. It's just our hands clasped together in the backseat of an SUV while we're driving to my penthouse. But to me, it's everything. I can't stop the stupid grin that tries to tug at the corners of my lips. It's a feeling I can't name, and for once, I don't want to. I just want to hold on to this moment and this connection. Her touch that's warm and soft does things to me I don't have the words for. I'm not sure I've ever been this nervous in my entire life, and that includes all the fights and battles I've faced over the centuries. This, right here, is more overwhelming than any war or enemy I've ever faced. So, how are you liking the day so far? I ask plainly, trying to keep things casual. My words feel too light for the tension buzzing between us, but I force a slight smile in an attempt to mask how I'm feeling inside. She shifts to the side in her seat to face me, raising a playful eyebrow. I'm beginning to think you don't eat anything unless there's a Michelin star involved, but I suppose somewhat helping me gorge on street food is a start. She tilts her head with a smirk. For now, I chuckle unexpectedly and tighten my grip around her slightly before saying, it's a new world to me. I'm adapting, slowly. The rest of the drive passes in a haze of quiet conversation and even quieter moments of shared glances. I can feel every inch of the distance between us narrowing as we approach my high rise. It feels as if our journey went too fast, and yet I can't wait to see what she thinks of my place, of my home. As we pull into the underground parking garage and the sleek black SUV glides effortlessly into its designated space, I notice the slight tension in Harley's shoulders. It's small and almost unnoticeable, but it's there. She's nervous too, just like I am. Mike parks the car, and the moment the engine cuts off, I get out before I even realize it. I swiftly walk around to her side, opening her door and offering my hand to her. She looks up at me for a second, her brow furrowed slightly, before taking my hand without hesitation. She's quiet as we walk the short distance through the cavernous garage, the air thick with the sound of our footsteps against the smooth concrete. I can feel the weight of her gaze on me, but I can't look at her just yet. I'm still fighting the urge to pull her closer, to wrap my arms around her, so I can keep her tethered to me. We step into my private elevator, and the doors close with a soft whoosh, the world outside disappearing behind us. It's just me and her now, standing close together in the small, polished space. I feel every inch of her, the warmth of her body, and the quiet tension between us that I can't seem to shake. Quite the elevator you've got here, she says, breaking the silence as her eyes flicker up at the mirrored ceiling. I huff, trying to lighten the mood, but my voice is tight. I like my privacy. She smirks. I've noticed. The elevator ascends quickly to the 50th floor, the hum of the machinery filling the quiet, enclosed space. The tension between us is palpable now, and it only grows heavier with every floor we pass. I can't help but steal glances at her, watching as she tries to remain composed with her lips slightly parted and her fingers twitching with anticipation or nerves. Maybe both. The elevator finally slows down smoothly and quietly, and when the doors open, we step out into the sleek, modern lobby of my penthouse. I can feel my heart racing in anticipation of her first impression of the place. I guide her through the expansive hallway to my front door with my hand at the small of her back. It's become instinct now, keeping her close, and she doesn't seem to mind, at least not yet. As we walk, the words I've been holding in for so long are finally on the tip of my tongue. I need to say something, but I'm not sure what. I'm not sure how to make her understand the weight of what this is, of what we are. She looks up at me as we near the door with a steady gaze and her lips slightly parted, and for a brief moment it feels like the whole world is held in the balance. But for now, I stay quiet as I guide her forward, instinctively knowing that whatever happens next will change everything. The elevator doors to the penthouse suite open, and we step into the cool, dimly lit, luxurious lobby. Thane's hand is on my lower back again, warm and solid, as he guides me towards his big, imposing front door. The air is different here, heavier somehow, and enriched with a quiet lavishness I've only ever read about in books or seen in magazines. But it's not just the wealth of the place that catches my attention. It's the subtle confidence in the way Thine moves, like he's entirely at home in this world of his. And right now, I feel like an intruder who's standing on the precipice of something I can't fully grasp. The latch of the front door clicks open on its own as we near it, and Thane pushes it open with an ease I'm jealous of. When he sees my raised brow at him not having to use a key to unlock it, he gestures to a camera in the corner of the ceiling above the door, and matter-of-factly says, "Facial recognition," which has my eyes almost rolling to the back of my head. Of course, he's got something as fancy as facial recognition. Following him over the threshold into his apartment, I hear the soft click of the door closing behind us, and I realize we're alone now, with nothing but the spacious quiet surrounding us. My breath catches slightly as I look around, taking in the sharp angles and polished surfaces, the subtle play of light against dark furnishings, and the way the whole place feels like it was built to make a statement. And yet it still feels lived in. He steps ahead of me, motioning for me to follow, and I do, with my eyes inevitably drawn to the details everywhere. The few muted paintings on the walls, the abstract sculptures that are perched atop various glass tables, and the massive floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the city. The view stretches out before me, endless, framed by shimmering glass and steel, with a skyline that's distant and radiant. I realize that my hand is gripping the strap of my sling bag so tightly that my fingers are starting to hurt, so I force myself to relax and focus on my breathing. I'm in Thane's world now, and I'm trying desperately not to let my nerves get the best of me. I know this isn't a dream, even though it feels like it. He turns to look at me, and for the first time since we've stepped inside, I see something that almost feels like hesitation in his gaze. His eyes soften, and a rare vulnerability flickers in them before he quickly masks it with his signature, unreadable composure. "Do you want a tour?" he asks, his voice low, but it carries an underlying warmth I haven't quite figured out yet. I can't help but raise an eyebrow at his offer. "A tour of your vampire lair? Sure, why not?" His lips curl slightly, as if he's fighting a smile. But that's it. There's no laugh, no full-on grin, just that little twitch of amusement before he turns to walk deeper into the apartment. "You're welcome to call it whatever you like," he says, his voice smooth but with an edge of playfulness I didn't expect from him. I chuckle softly, my sarcasm acting as a shield. I need it right now to keep my heart from racing too fast and to keep my thoughts from spiraling out of control. "So this is where the famous Thaindrin hides from the sunlight and pretends to be normal?" He doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he just walks ahead as I follow him. I'm still taking in the expansive spaces around me, trying to keep my composure, but it's not easy. His place is beautiful, elegant, and sophisticated in a way that's almost too perfect. We step into a large sunken living room area, its centerpiece a sleek black L-shaped leather couch that could easily seat 10 people, with low-profile chairs placed at odd angles, creating a feeling of openness. Another wall of windows overlooks a different portion of the city, as the sun now sits lower in the sky, painting the skyline in cloudless deep blue hues. The view is nothing short of breathtaking, but it doesn't quite compare to the intensity of Thane's gaze when it catches mine. "The view's nice," I murmur, trying to keep things casual, even as the back of my neck starts to tingle with the awareness of his presence. His silence is heavy, but it's not uncomfortable. It's just constant. "I think you'll like the kitchen more," he replies, his voice lowering slightly, almost like he's unsure of something. "Really? I thought you'd have a live-in chef for that kind of thing." I almost expect him to laugh at my quip, but instead he nods thoughtfully. "I do, but sometimes there's something more satisfying about doing it yourself, even if it's just throwing something simple together." I stop walking as a small laugh escapes me. "I get it. You enjoy the thrill of cooking for yourself sometimes, but it's the fridge full of blood bags that really makes it feel like home to you." He glances back at me, with that faint amusement still tugging at the corners of his mouth, but he doesn't respond, though. It's strange, this back and forth we're having. Me, as I try to remain detached and unaffected, and him, as he stands there, being his brooding self. It's as though we're dancing around something neither of us wants to acknowledge. My thoughts flicker briefly to the earlier tension between us, to the way his presence always seems to pull at me, and the way my body reacts to him despite my mind trying to hold on to some semblance of control. As we make our way to the kitchen, I immediately notice its sleek design. It's modern with clean lines and dark marble countertops. It's polished and professional, everything a top-tier chef would need to create a five-star meal. I can imagine him in here, working silently with precision, his every motion deliberate and controlled, but I can't imagine him cooking for fun. Cooking to him is probably a means to an end, something that requires skill but little emotion. "Nice kitchen," I say as I slide into one of the bar stools at the counter. "Do you spend much time in here?" His eyes flick to me for a moment, and for a brief second, I see something flicker in them, like a soft sadness, but it's gone so quickly that I can't even be sure it was there to begin with. "I'm not much of a cook," he says simply, as he moves toward the fridge, pulling out a bottle of water and offering it to me. "But it does its job." I take it, grateful for the small but thoughtful gesture. I find myself watching him, and before I can stop myself, I ask, "You really think this is what I need? To see your home?" He turns towards me at that, his eyes catching mine with an intensity that makes my heart skip a beat. He doesn't say anything for a long moment, just watching me with a gaze that makes me feel like he's searching for something deeper than the surface-level banter we've been throwing around. "Yes," he says finally, his voice steady. "I think you need to see me, Harley, in every way possible, to understand me, and to see that I'm not just whatever you thought I was before." I open my mouth to respond, but the words get stuck in my throat. Instead, I just nod, silently agreeing that this, whatever this is between us, has already crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. And I'm starting to wonder if I'm really ready for that. The silence between us is thick and charged, but it's different from the heavy tension I felt earlier when I couldn't quite figure out where we stood with each other. This time, the tension is not just filled with anticipation, it's filled with the need for clarity. I gesture toward the plush couch in the living room behind me, feeling like I've stepped into the unknown. This isn't a normal conversation we're about to have. It's not something that can be brushed off with a quip or a change of subject. If I want to make sense of this, if I want to know what the hell I'm getting myself into, I need to ask him outright. I need to know the whole truth, even if it shakes me to my core. "Sit down with me?" I ask, my voice soft but firm, as I get up from the counter and move in that direction, gesturing for him to follow me. Thane looks at me, his posture still tall and even regal-like, but there's a slight uncertainty in his eyes that I'm not used to seeing. He's waiting for me to say something more, to lead this conversation, I guess. But how do you lead a conversation when you don't even know where it's going? He follows me nonetheless and takes a seat beside me on the couch, his gaze never leaving me. The space between us feels electric, like something is about to snap. I can't tell if it's my nerves or his. Maybe it's both. "I need you to explain something to me," I begin, and my heart beats a little faster than I'd like it to. "What does it really mean when you say you're a vampire? I mean, we both know what that entails according to novels, but I need to hear it from you." His jaw clenches as he takes in a deep breath. I can see him weighing his words and the way he's considering what to say before he speaks. It's like he's measuring the weight of his truth, but when he answers, there's a quiet certainty in his voice. It means I'm not human. I don't age, and I don't heal like you do. My needs are different. His gaze hardens and his tone becomes quieter, more deliberate when he adds, I need blood to survive. That's something you already know, but it's not the only part of it. I lean back and tuck my legs underneath me as I try to keep my breathing steady. Everything he's saying is stuff I've known or guessed at, but hearing it from him makes it real. It makes it undeniable. I know that this is a lot, he continues, his voice steady but laced with something darker, something that carries the weight of centuries. But there's something you need to understand about us, about me. You felt it, haven't you? The pull between us that you find inexplicable. I swallow hard, unsure of what to say at first, but then tentatively say, yeah, I felt it. I've definitely felt the connection that pulls me toward him like a gravitational force, the one that makes me want to stay close to him, even though part of me is screaming to run as fast and far away as my legs can carry me. He shifts to the side, closer this time, as his knee bumps up against my thigh, the space between us becoming charged with the weight of his words. I'm not just any vampire, Harley, he says, his gaze fixed on mine. I'm a vampire king. I've been alive for centuries. I've met scores of my people over the years, but I've never. His voice falters slightly, but he catches himself before continuing. I've never had a connection with anyone like the one I feel with you. And what that means, what that really means, is that we're fated mates. His words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Fated mates? The term feels foreign on my tongue, but it makes a sick sort of sense in the context of everything that's happened recently. I almost laugh as the absurdity of it all rolls through my mind. Fated mates, like something out of one of those books I read when I need an escape. The silence between us is thick and charged, but it's different from the heavy tension I felt earlier when I couldn't quite figure out where we stood with each other. This time, the tension is not just filled with anticipation, it's filled with the need for clarity. I gesture toward the plush couch in the living room behind me, feeling like I've stepped into the unknown. This isn't a normal conversation we're about to have. It's not something that can be brushed off with a quip or a change of subject. If I want to make sense of this, if I want to know what the hell I'm getting myself into, I need to ask him outright. I need to know the whole truth, even if it shakes me to my core. Sit down with me? I ask, my voice soft but firm, as I get up from the counter and move in that direction, gesturing for him to follow me. Thane looks at me, his posture still tall and even regal-like, but there's a slight uncertainty in his eyes that I'm not used to seeing. He's waiting for me to say something more, to lead this conversation, I guess. But how do you lead a conversation when you don't even know where it's going? He follows me, nonetheless, and takes a seat beside me on the couch, his gaze never leaving me. The space between us feels electric, like something is about to snap. I can't tell if it's my nerves or his. Maybe it's both. I need you to explain something to me, I begin, and my heart beats a little faster than I'd like it to. What does it really mean when you say you're a vampire? I mean, we both know what that entails according to novels, but I need to hear it from you. His jaw clenches as he takes in a deep breath. I can see him weighing his words, and the way he's considering what to say before he speaks. It's like he's measuring the weight of his truth, but when he answers, there's a quiet certainty in his voice. It means I'm not human, I don't age, and I don't heal like you do. My needs are different. His gaze hardens, and his tone becomes quieter, more deliberate, when he adds, I need blood to survive. That's something you already know, but it's not the only part of it. I lean back and tuck my legs underneath me as I try to keep my breathing steady. Everything he's saying is stuff I've known or guessed at, but hearing it from him makes it real. It makes it undeniable. I know that this is a lot, he continues, his voice steady but laced with something darker, something that carries the weight of centuries. But there's something you need to understand about us. About me. You felt it, haven't you? The pull between us that you find inexplicable. I swallow hard, unsure of what to say at first, but then tentatively say, yeah, I've felt it. I've definitely felt the connection that pulls me toward him like a gravitational force, the one that makes me want to stay close to him, even though part of me is screaming to run as fast and far away as my legs can carry me. He shifts to the side, closer this time, as his knee bumps up against my thigh, the space between us becoming charged with the weight of his words. "I'm not just any vampire, Harley," he says, his gaze fixed on mine. "I'm a vampire king. I've been alive for centuries. I've met scores of my people over the years, but I've never—" His voice falters slightly, but he catches himself before continuing. "I've never had a connection with anyone like the one I feel with you. And what that means, what that really means, is that we're fated mates." His words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Fated mates? The term feels foreign on my tongue, but it makes a sick sort of sense in the context of everything that's happened recently. I almost laugh as the absurdity of it all rolls through my mind. Fated mates. Like something out of one of those books I read when I need an escape. I've never been or aware of every single detail of a moment in my life. The tension in the room wraps itself around me like a vice, squeezing tighter with every passing second. I study her face, watching for any hint or flicker of an emotion that might tell me what she's really thinking. But Harley's hard to read, even now, when I can almost hear the thoughts running through her head. I've seen her frustrated, sarcastic, and playful. But now, there's something else beneath the surface. A quiet fear. And I'm not sure if it's fear of me or fear of herself. She leans her head back slightly, her eyes darting away from mine and over my right shoulder for a moment. Then she brings them back, like she's trying to avoid something. Her jaw clenches ever so slightly, and her fingers fidget with the hem of her sweater sleeve. It's a small movement, but it tells me more than I want to admit. She's on the verge of making a decision. I can feel it. My heart thuds in my chest, and I want to reach for her. I want to take her hand so I can ground her in this, but I can't. Not yet. Not until I know if she's staying. I lean into her slightly, trying to catch her eye, but she's too busy wringing her fingers as if the weight of my stare is too much for her to bear. "Harley," I murmur, my voice low and careful, "I need to know. What do you want?" My words feel too simple, too easy, but they're all I can offer her in this moment. I can't force her. I can't make her choose me, and I'm not sure I could live with myself if I did. Her lips part, and for a second, I think she's going to say something, maybe even something that could change everything. But instead she blinks, takes a deep breath, and looks up at me, giving me her full attention. "Do I need to become a vampire?" she asks, her voice steady but laced with the uncertainty I know she's feeling. If I decide to stay, I freeze, because her question lands like a punch to my chest. It's a question I knew was coming, one that, in every way, should have been obvious. But hearing her say it, hearing it fall from her lips, makes everything feel more real. She's asking if she has to become like me. She's asking if she has to give up her humanity to be with me, so we can have a future. I swallow hard to try to keep my composure. This is the part I knew was inevitable. It's the one part of our bond I can't avoid. The one thing that, no matter how much I want to shield her from it, has to happen. I can't simply mark her with my bite. It's not just about claiming her, it's about her survival. She can't live the way I do unless I turn her. It's the nature of what I am. But the thought of making her like me, turning her into something she never asked for, shakes me to the core. She's human. She's alive. She has a life ahead of her that doesn't involve immortality or the bloodlust that's part of my world. The idea of taking that from her, of forcing her into this, makes my stomach turn. I inhale slowly, gathering the courage to say the words she's not going to want to hear. "Yes," I answer simply, my voice rough with the weight of it. "If you want to stay with me, Harley, I'd have to turn you. It's how it works. It's how it's always worked." Her expression doesn't change right away. She's processing. I can see that much. But then her gaze shifts slightly and her brows furrow in thought. She doesn't speak at first, and the silence between us grows thicker, until finally she inhales deeply and meets my eyes again. "But I don't want to become a vampire," she says quietly but firmly. It's a statement that cuts me deeper than I expected it would, as the weight of her words sinks into my chest like a stone. She's drawing a line in the sand by not asking me to make her immortal, nor begging me to turn her into one of my kind. I nod once, acknowledging the truth in her words. I know, I reply softly, my voice strained. I know you don't want that, but if you choose to stay, if you choose to be with me, it's something that would eventually have to happen. There's a small part of me that aches at the thought of taking her humanity from her, but there's also a part of me that burns with the desire to keep her with me, forever. Is there any way around it? She asks, her voice quieter now, but full of a strength I can't ignore. I wish I could tell her there is. I wish I could promise her that she can stay the way she is and still be mine in every way imaginable, but the reality of what we are doesn't allow for that. I don't know, I admit, the frustration seeping through my voice despite my best efforts to keep it under control. But I'll find a way, Harley. I'm the vampire king after all. There has to be a way around it. I'll do whatever it takes. Her eyes search mine, and for a moment, she's quiet and still. Then her lips part as if she's about to say something else, but the words get lost somewhere between her heart and her mind. I can feel the pull between us growing stronger. I can feel the weight of everything she's not saying. I know she's trying to make sense of it all and trying to figure out what it means for her, for us. Finally, she speaks again, and her voice is soft, but there's a flicker of determination in it. I can't be just a vampire. I can't be just some creature you made. I'm human, and I don't want to lose that. I reach for her hand, wanting to reassure her, but I stop myself. She's not ready for that yet, and I don't want to push her too hard. Not now, in this pivotal moment. I won't ever make you lose yourself, I promise her, my voice low and unwavering. But you need to know what you're asking for, what you're choosing. This isn't just about you and me. It's about everything. Our bond, the way we're tied together, the way you make me feel. She looks away to the cityscape outside the windows for a moment, and I can feel her doubt, the uncertainty that's slowly taking root in her heart. And it's not just about becoming a vampire. It's about the uncertainty of this whole thing, of our bond that's pulling her toward me, whether she's ready for it or not. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to make her feel the same certainty I feel. But I do know one thing. I'm not going to give up on her. On us. Not now. Not ever. And as I watch her process everything I just said, I feel my heart tighten in my chest. I can't lose her. I can't let her go. But if she chooses to walk away, I'll have to let her, even if it breaks me. The air between us is thick with unspoken words and half-formed thoughts as we sit here in my living room. I can see the way she's trying to pull away and her walls going up again, like they always do when things get too real. But I can't let her slip through my fingers, not after everything we've shared today, and not when there's so much more to show her. You don't have to decide right now, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. My heart is hammering in my chest, but I need her to hear this. Take all the time you need. She looks up at that, her eyes clouded with uncertainty, but there's something in them that tells me she's listening. But remember, you promised me the rest of the day to show you what it means to be with me. And it's only mid-afternoon, I continue, a hint of a smile tugging at my lips. That means I still have about 8 hours to prove to you why this us can work. I see the faintest twitch in her lips as if she's about to make a sarcastic remark, but she holds it back. Instead, she nods slowly, her decision lingering in the air between us. Okay, she finally says, her voice quiet but firm. So, what's next? A small sense of triumph surges in my chest, but I keep it under control. I was thinking we could make lunch together, I suggest casually, as though it's the most natural thing in the world. Nothing too heavy, though, after your food truck buffet. She raises an eyebrow at my words, clearly intrigued. You're not planning to cook me anything weird, are you? Because, according to you, you're not exactly known for your culinary expertise. I grin at her teasing, relieved to see that signature sass of hers again. Don't worry, I'll keep it simple. You can even tell me if I'm doing it all wrong. She studies me for a moment, then shrugs. Sure, what's the worst that could happen? I get up off the couch, holding my hand out to her to take. For a beat, I think she might reject my offer, but then she surprises me by taking it and standing up gracefully. I lead her towards the kitchen, and when I move off toward the fridge to grab a few items, she starts opening cupboards. I watch as she moves from one to the other until she finds the sliding pantry door. With a slight victorious smile, she takes out some spices and grains. As we begin chopping vegetables, I can feel her proximity like a magnet. Every time we reach for the same knife in the knife block, or try to stir the same pot, our hands brush, and the contact sends a jolt through me that makes my pulse race. I try to focus on the task at hand, on the sizzling sounds of the onions browning in the pan, but it's almost impossible to ignore the way she moves next to me. Her laughter breaks through, low and soft, as I somehow almost manage to spill half of the salt shaker's contents into the pan. "Careful, Thane," she teases, her voice full of mock seriousness. "You don't want to turn the dish into something that's just as lethal as your bite." I can't help but slightly smile at her. "This is why I'm letting you do most of the work," I say, handing her the cutting board with the freshly diced tomatoes. "I'm dangerous in a kitchen." She smirks, her eyes lighting up with that mischievous spark I can never resist. "Oh, I'm sure I can handle a little danger," she teases, making it sound like a challenge. As we continue, there's something intoxicating about the simple act of sharing the space with her, of us working together without words, with only occasional glances and half smiles being exchanged by us. It's easy, in a way I didn't expect, but it's also almost too much at the same time. Her warmth, her scent, the sound of her voice making idle chatter as we go back and forth. And every time she touches me, even if it's just her hand grazing mine as we reach for the same ingredient, it all causes an electric current to run through my veins. As we move, the tension in the room also builds slowly, like a quiet storm that's been gathering all day. It's in the way her breath catches when I lean in just a little too close to stir the pot. It's in the way our bodies align as we stand side by side at the counter, the space between us always a little too small for comfort, but neither of us is backing away. At one point, I step forward to get the serving dish off the island, and she's right there, too close for my liking, with how untethered I feel. But I can't seem to bring myself to move away either. Her skin brushes against mine as she shifts to the side, and I freeze for a moment, staring down at her. Her lips part slightly, and she's breathing a little heavier now, the closeness between us becoming unbearable. I'm about to say something, to break the silence that's slowly becoming charged with more than just the food we're preparing. But then, without warning, she tilts her head back even more, looking up at me. The movement is so small and so delicate, but it speaks volumes in the space between us. The next thing I know, I'm pulling her closer to me, both my hands gripping her hips. My body is moving before my mind can catch up, and my breath is shallow as I lean in with my eyes locked on hers. I don't kiss her. Not yet. But I feel it. The weight of the moment and of everything that's been building between us. As I gently touch the tip of my nose to hers, I can almost taste it on my lips, the hunger, the desire, the need for more. But I pull back just in time, and just enough to avoid crossing the line. Her lips are parted, and for a moment there's only silence between us, filled with unspoken things neither of us is ready to say. I stand there, my hands still at her hips, and my heart thundering in my chest as I try to steady my breath. "You okay?" she asks, her voice soft, but I hear the uncertainty in it, as her eyes ping-pong between mine. I nod slowly as I try to keep myself in check. "Yeah," I say, my voice rough. Just give me a minute." She doesn't ask any more questions. She just looks at me for a second, then turns back to finish up prepping our meal. We finish preparing the dish in silence, but the tension keeps lingering, thick and tangible in the air between us. When it's done, we sit down at the dining table, while the distance between us is filled with too many unspoken thoughts and too many moments that we both know are too close to being something more. I'm not sure what happens next for us, but I do know one thing. I'm not going to walk away. Not this time, maybe not ever. I take another bite of my meal, but I'm not really tasting it as I sit across from Thane. The clink of our silverware on the plates is the only sound in the otherwise quiet room. We've eaten in silence for a while now, each of us lost in our own thoughts. My thoughts are centered around the gnawing weight of the conversation we had earlier as we sat on his couch. Vampire, fated mates, turning me into something I've never even thought of being and never would have asked for. That thought lingers, heavy and suffocating, as I barely taste my food. I keep trying to wrap my mind around it, but I'm not sure if I can. I don't know if I'm ready to become part of his world, even if it means I'll have to walk away from him. Part of me wants to walk away, but the other part, the one that's buried deep down and refuses to show itself, wants to stay, wants to keep figuring this out, wants to see where this, whatever it is, goes. I glance up at Thane. He's halfway through his meal, but his eyes are distant and focused on something far beyond this meal in front of him. His jaw is tight, and I can almost feel the weight of the thoughts he's carrying. It's like there's a door that's locked behind his gaze, one that I've never been able to see into. And I wonder, not for the first time, what it is that keeps him so guarded. Before I can say anything, though, he speaks up, his voice low and almost hesitant. "You're quiet tonight." His words catch me off guard because I didn't expect him to be the one to break the silence, especially not when we've both been so quiet for the past 20 minutes. His gaze finally flicks to mine, and something about it is different. It's somewhat softer, like he's seeing me in a way he hasn't before. I swallow hard because my thoughts are still tangled from everything that's been said between us in the past 24 hours. I honestly don't know how to answer him without spilling the raw mess of thoughts that's swirling in my head. "I'm just thinking," I finally say somewhat evasively, my voice sounding small even to me. "About everything, you know?" Thane sets his fork down and fixes those intense blue eyes of his on me. He seems like he's debating something, like he's deciding whether or not to share something with me that he's been holding back. And then, without warning, his mask slips. He lets out a quiet sigh, one that seems to carry the weight of centuries of silence. "I get it," he says quietly. "The things I'm asking of you, they're a lot, and I know it's not fair." I blink at him, surprised by the raw honesty in his voice. He leans forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table, and for the first time, I see the cracks in his carefully curated facade. He's not in control of this moment, of us, like he always is. His rare show of vulnerability is like a beacon pulling me in, and it tightens my chest. "I wasn't always who I am today," he continues, his voice a little rougher than before. "I didn't ask for any of this. Not the power, not the responsibilities, and certainly not the weight of being a king of a whole region. I didn't choose this life either, but it's all I know now." He pauses as he lets his words hang in the air. I don't say anything, not because I don't want to, but because I'm afraid of interrupting whatever he's working through. "It's a life that's left me alone for far too long," he says, and there's a bitter edge to his words that I've never heard before. "I've done things I'm not proud of, things I'll never be able to take back. But you're different. And I know that. I know that because every time I'm near you, I feel this tug, like the universe is reminding me that maybe I can be something more than what I've become." His voice cracks slightly, and I can see the tension in his shoulders. I can also see the way he's clenching his jaw like he's not quite ready to let go of whatever burden he's been carrying for so long. The sight of it sends a pang through my chest. I didn't expect to see this side of him, not in a million years. The powerful, guarded king. The vampire who's been around for centuries. He now sits before me, vulnerable, broken, and on uneven ground. I don't know what to say, so I don't say anything. Instead, I reach across the table and brush my fingers across the back of his hand that's closest to me, offering him what little comfort I can without saying a word. His eyes flick to mine at my gesture, and something softens in his gaze. And for a brief moment, it's like the whole world stops, and there's nothing between us but the quiet understanding of what he's just shared. Then, just as suddenly, the moment shifts. He stands and turns back to the kitchen counter with his empty plate in hand, his usual composure returning as if he's put that part of him away again. But something has changed. I can feel it, and I think he can too. "So," he says with a half smile over his shoulder, a playful tone creeping back into his voice, "what did you think about the way I make my honey sesame sauce? It's pretty simple, really, but it's all about the right ingredients." I chuckle, the tension breaking as I sit back in my chair. You could have started this conversation with something a little less intense. Like, how about we talk about your stir fry recipe first, before you tell me about all the supernatural stuff you've been up to? At my words, he laughs softly, his usual confidence returning. Fair enough, he says. I suppose I owe you that much. I finish my meal as he returns to the table, a more comfortable silence settling between us. And even though the weight of his confession still lingers in the air between us, somehow the quiet is easier now. Lighter, even, like we've shared something neither of us expected, and maybe it's a step forward for both of us. And as we sit there, I realize that for the first time since meeting him, I'm not afraid. Whatever happens next, whatever we choose to do, we're in this together. I'm not sure where it'll lead, but I'm willing to see it through. Because now, for the first time, I can see him. The man, the king, the monster. And maybe, just maybe, there's room for all of him. And all of me. Than stands up and holds out a hand towards me, asking, "Come with me?" And without an ounce of hesitation, I slip my hand into his and rise from my chair. He leads me down a long hallway, where our footsteps echo softly in the quiet of his penthouse. I'm still reeling from the events of the whole afternoon, trying to reconcile everything he's revealed since we got here. The words he spoke, the promises he made, the way his touch lingered just a little too long. It's all settling in, and I'm left wondering how far this thing between us will go. His hand is warm around mine, and I can feel the tension in his fingers by the slight tremble in them as he walks next to me, almost as if he's unsure of what he's about to show me. It's strange, seeing him like this, uncharacteristically uncertain. It seems the man who rules with power and control is suddenly navigating through a space he's not used to. Vulnerability. Almost at the end of the hall, we stop in front of a set of double doors, and for the first time, I see a flicker of hesitation in his posture. His shoulders stiffen just a fraction, and his jaw tightens, like he's bracing himself to show me something I might not like. My chest tightens as I watch him, unsure of what to expect, but there's something in the way he holds my hand that tells me this isn't just about showing me a room. It's about way more than that. I know you love books, he starts, his voice soft and almost uncertain. This morning, before I came over to your place, I made a couple of calls, and I had something done. I want you to see it. Without waiting for my response, he pushes the doors open, and I'm immediately taken aback. The space before me is overwhelming in its beauty. It's a library, a real, bona fide library, with walls lined from floor to ceiling with books. So many books. The air in the room smells of wood, old paper, and leather, warm and inviting, with the faintest hint of something familiar that reminds me of the cozy corner of my bookstore. I step inside slowly, feeling the weight of the moment and the overwhelming warmth of the space. There are several reading nooks, tucked into corners, each with plush armchairs, thick woolen throws, and soft lighting. A fireplace sits off in one corner, its hearth untouched, but offering a promise of warmth. But my gaze is almost immediately drawn to one section in particular. It's been cleared out, the shelves emptied, and there are numerous stacked, sealed boxes on the floor in front of it. I turn to Thane, who's watching me with an unreadable expression. "Why is that section empty?" I ask, although I suspect I already know the answer. But the sight of the boxes, the sheer effort that must have gone into this, stirs something inside me. Thane's voice is low, and there's a soft uncertainty in his words as he says, "While I was with you this morning, I had this area cleared out. I didn't know how you like to organize your books, so I left them in their boxes for you to sort out." I blink, then blink again, feeling something stir deep inside me. This wasn't just a gesture, it was thoughtful. He didn't just dump a collection of random books in here and say it was mine. No, he gave me the space to make it my own and to decide how it will ultimately fit into my world. I step forward, my hands slowly slipping from his, and reach for the flaps of the first box. As I begin to open it, I can't help but tease him. I can already tell this is going to be a mismatch of epic proportions. My books and yours? Nonfiction, biographies, and whatever else you read. And then here I am, surrounded by romance novels that would make you cringe. The slight twitch of his mouth shows that he's holding back a smile. "I think I'll survive," he replies dryly. I open the box, and the first thing I see is a handful of classic romance novels. My heart skips a beat as I take one out and glance at the cover. My fingers skim over the worn edges, and I notice the subtle smell of ink and age. I look at him, my voice barely above a whisper, as I ask incredulously, "Are these first editions?" Thane's eyes soften as he steps closer to me. "You deserve nothing less," he says quietly. "I tried getting as many of what I thought you might love on such short notice." I'm overwhelmed by the sheer thoughtfulness of his actions. For someone so used to getting everything on his own terms, this feels personal in a way I didn't expect. I take a deep breath, feeling a sudden pressure in my chest as I continue pulling books from the boxes. They're all so perfect, so tailored to my tastes, that I'm struggling to wrap my head around the fact that he'd go to this extent for me. And then, before I have a chance to overthink it, I spin around and throw my arms around his neck. My lips find his in a kiss that feels like it's been waiting for months to happen. I don't care about the boxes, the books, or even the fact that we're standing in the middle of his private library where he's made space for me. This moment is mine and his, and I can't seem to pull away. He responds immediately, his arms wrapping around me and pulling me closer. But this kiss is made of more than just passion. There's something here, in the way he holds me, in the way he doesn't want to let go, that tells me this kiss is different from the others we've shared before now. When we finally do break apart, I can barely look him in the eye as I feel my heart racing, and a mixture of exhilaration and vulnerability swirls in my chest. I've just initiated a kiss with a man who could break me, who could shatter my world into a million pieces, and yet somehow I'm not afraid, nor do I regret it. "Thank you," I whisper, still breathless from our kiss. He looks at me and his expression is filled with quiet understanding. "You don't need to thank me, Harley. I just want you to be happy." I don't know what to say to that, so instead, I lean up and kiss him again, just slower this time. I need him to know how much this means to me, how much he means to me, without saying it out loud. As we stand there, surrounded by books and the warmth of each other's touch, I realize that this is the first time in a long time I've felt truly and completely at home. And that's something I never expected. Not in a million years. I slowly pull away from him, my breath still unsteady as I try to collect myself. The kiss lingers, sweet and dizzying, and I can feel the heat between us crackle like an ember that refuses to burn out. But as I take a step back, I'm aware of the weight of everything that's just happened. The kiss, the unspoken emotions between us, the tension that's still thick in the air. The space between us feels charged, as if one or both of our controls are about to snap, as my heart races and my mind spins with a million thoughts I can barely catch. Thane's eyes are still on me, his expression softer than I've ever seen it, and a slight trace of a smile is playing at the corner of his mouth. There's something there, something vulnerable that he's allowing me to see. But even in his softness, there's a quiet strength, a confidence that radiates from him like waves. It's as if he's not just waiting for me to catch up, but pulling me into his world, inch by inch, but it's all happening so fast. The air around us feels heavier now, thick with the quiet hum of the room. The soft light from the large windows casts shadows across the hardwood floor, and the silence is almost suffocating but somehow comforting too. He doesn't say anything as he just watches me, giving me the time I need to process. And I definitely need time. Time to think, time to breathe, and time to figure out what the hell I'm doing. I clear my throat, trying to shake off the fog that's settled over me, and ask awkwardly, "So, where were we?" Thane chuckles softly, a low rumble in his chest, clearly catching on to my feeble attempt to change the subject. "You were about to tell me how you're going to organize your portion of the library." I roll my eyes, trying to bring some normalcy back to the moment. "Oh, right, because that's the most pressing thing on my mind right now." His smile widens somewhat, but there's something in his eyes that makes me hesitate. "Harley, He trails off as if searching for the right words. I know there's something else he wants to say, something more profound, something that's been lingering between us. But mercifully, he doesn't say it. Not yet, sensing that I'm not quite ready to hear it. I exhale a slow breath, turn around, and walk over to the nearest bookcase that's in his section. The scent of old pages and paper surrounds me, grounding me in the familiarity of a space I've always found comfort in. I run my fingers over the spines of the books, feeling the smooth texture under my fingertips. It's easy to lose myself in the rhythm of the shelves, and I let the weight of the moment settle in the background, trying to find some semblance of clarity. Thane follows me, just a step behind, his presence always so close. Too close, but not in a way that makes me want to run. It's the kind of closeness I've never allowed myself to experience with anyone. But this is Thane, and he's different. So fucking different. I'll start with the Regency romance section, I say, my voice light as I try to push past the heavy air that's still hanging between us. The classics, the ones with the big swooning titles and the happy endings. Not exactly your thing, I'm sure. I'll survive, he replies, his voice soft, and I can hear the teasing tone that's always there when he's with me. But underneath it, there's something else, a sincerity, a depth I didn't expect from him. I laugh, shaking my head. I'm sure you will. You'll be well versed in Victorian love stories in no time. We then stand there for a moment, the silence between us settling like a soft weight around us. It's not uncomfortable, though. It's just real. And for the first time since we met little more than a week ago, I feel like I might finally be beginning to understand him, the man behind the myth, the vampire king behind the hard exterior. And maybe I'm starting to understand myself better too. Harley, he says quietly, and I turn to face him, meeting his gaze. I know this is all a lot to take in, but I need you to know that I'll be here, always. I'm not going anywhere. I swallow hard as the weight of his words sinks in. It's not just about the books or the library or the meals he's offering anymore. It's about him, about us, and about what we could be. I open my mouth to respond, but no words come out. Instead, I reach for his hand, my fingers brushing against his, and for the first time, I let myself really feel the connection between us. It's there, undeniable and real, and even if I'm scared and I'm not sure what's going to happen, I'm not ready to walk away from him, from us, just yet. Let's take it one step at a time, I finally say, my voice steady, but my rapid heartbeat betraying me. I'm not ready to make any big decisions just yet, Tane, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to figure this out with you, one step at a time. His gaze softens then, and I can clearly see the relief in his eyes. There's something in the way he looks at me, something that tells me this is the beginning of something I'm not sure I'm ready for, but I can't bring myself to stop it. You won't regret it, he whispers, his words low and sincere. I nod, squeezing his hand as I let myself lean into him, just a little. Let's take it day by day, I murmur, and in that moment, I can feel that I've just stepped over a boundary I might not be able to return from. But maybe that's okay. I watch her from behind my desk in the library, my eyes following every move she makes as she sorts through the books, then stacks them meticulously on the shelves. There's an almost hypnotic rhythm to the way she works, her hands reverently sliding over the spines of the books, her lips curling into a tender smile when she finds a title she's particularly excited about. I should be focusing on the work in front of me. I had ignored most of it all week, letting it pile up while I was distracted by her, by us. But every time I try to tear my gaze away from her to read through a contract or reply to an email, it inevitably drifts back to her. Harley. She's sitting cross-legged on the floor now, surrounded by piles of stacked books, her fingers lightly tracing the edges as if she's savoring each one. I know that look on her face, that look of quiet contentment, of being fully immersed in something she loves. It's a side of her I don't think I've ever seen before, and for some reason it makes my chest tighten. When I led her to the library doors earlier, I was nervous about how she would react, nervous about how much of herself she would allow me to see. I had no idea how she would respond to the space I had created for her. And then when I pushed open the doors and saw the surprise in her eyes, the way she hesitated just for a moment before stepping over the threshold, I knew I had made the right decision. And then the moment she kissed me, so thoroughly, so passionately, I felt something inside me crack wide open. I hadn't expected it, but it was everything I needed. I replay those moments in my mind. Her kiss, the way she agreed to try, even if she wasn't ready to make any big decisions yet. I understand her hesitation. I do. She's human, and I'm not. She has every reason to take her time with this and to question everything. But that doesn't change the fact that I want her. I crave her. Not just physically, though the way she makes me feel is a constant ache I can't ignore, but in every other way too. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She's everything I never knew I needed. The bond between us, the pull we both feel, isn't something I can easily explain, but I don't have to. I can feel it in the marrow of my bones, and I know she feels it too, even if she's unsure of what it all means. My thoughts wander back to her as I watch her stand and adjust the books, her brow furrowed in concentration. I want to help her, to be closer to her, to be the man who can offer her stability in the midst of all this chaos. But I don't want to overwhelm her either. Not now, while we're still on unsteady ground. I don't know how to make her stay. I don't know how to erase her doubts or push aside the insecurities she keeps hidden beneath her strong exterior. But I know one thing. I'm willing to try. I stand up slowly, leaving my desk and my almost untouched paperwork behind, and quietly slip from the room. I can hear the soft murmur of her voice as she hums to herself, focused entirely on the task at hand. I don't want to disturb her, but I can't ignore the sudden urge I have to do something for her. Something small, something that shows her I'm paying attention to the little things. I make my way to the kitchen and gather the necessary ingredients to make her a cup of coffee. I've been making it for years for myself, but for some reason, this time feels different. I move slower and take my time, as though each step is a careful offering to her. The aroma of the freshly brewed coffee fills the air as I pour it into a matte black mug, and I take a deep breath, steadying myself before I walk back down the hall toward the library and towards her. When I step back into the room, she looks up from her work, and her eyes meet mine in surprise, obviously not having noticed that I wasn't in the room with her anymore. Her gaze softens, though, when she sees the coffee in my hands. "Coffee?" I ask, my voice quiet but steady as I walk over to her. She smiles softly, and the tension in her body momentarily fades. "Thanks," she says, her voice low and grateful. As she reaches for the mug, she surprises me once again when her lips brush mine in a fleeting kiss. And even though it is just a quick peck, it sends a shiver down my spine. I stand there for a moment, stunned by the warmth of her simple act and at the way my body reacts without me even having to try. "You know," she says, a playful glint in her eyes, "you're really starting to spoil me." My lips twitch into the slightest of smiles, my heart racing a little. "You're more than worthy of being doted upon," I reply, my voice softer than usual. She lifts the mug to her lips, taking a sip, and I watch her closely, my eyes tracing the delicate curve of her neck as she drinks and noticing the pale blush that creeps across the apples of her cheeks. The small moments between us, these quiet exchanges, are becoming something I cherish more than I expected. And as I stand there, watching her, I realize something. I want more of these moments, more of her. I want to do the little things, the things that show her how much she means to me, how much I want to be the one who takes care of her. And not just in big gestures, but in these quiet, everyday ways that can sometimes mean the most. The library feels peaceful, almost surreal, as Harley continues to unpack her newest additions to her novel collection. The soft light from the windows catches on the edges of the bookshelves and casts long shadows across the room as the golden late-afternoon sun filters in. The smell of the books, a mixture of aged paper, leather, and faint dust, hangs in the air, soothing in its familiarity. The room is quiet, except for the occasional rustle of pages and the slight creak of the wooden floors beneath her feet as she moves to and fro. I watch her, still marveling at the fact that she's here, in my space, making it feel like more than just an empty apartment now. The dark leather chairs near the fireplace, the shelves filled with books I haven't touched in decades, and the thick, textured rug beneath my feet all feel less sterile with her here. It feels almost alive. The library is not only a room in my apartment anymore, it's a piece of her that's slowly taking root. She sips her coffee, lost in the pages of a book she's cradling in her hand, and I can't help the small smile that tugs at my lips. The soft clink of her cup as she sets it down on the small side table next to her blends with the faint background hum of the city outside, the quiet rush of life continuing just beyond the windows. I'm happy, unbelievably so, and yet there's a quiet undercurrent of tension in me that I can't seem to shake. The conversation we had earlier about me turning her is still hanging in the air between us. I know she's not ready to make a decision, but that doesn't stop me from admitting how badly I want her to stay. And not just for me, but for us. You know, she says, breaking through my thoughts, her voice light and teasing. I always thought first editions were a bit over the top. But I have to admit, you've got good taste, Draven. I chuckle softly, then step over to my desk again and ease back down into my chair. I've been known to have my moments, I reply, watching her as she flips through the pages of the next book, her eyes twinkling with amusement. There's an easy, comfortable silence between us, the kind that only happens when you're fully at ease in someone's presence. It's rare for me, but with her, it feels almost natural. But really, you're the one with the good taste, I add, my voice smooth and teasing. I'm just here for the view. She rolls her eyes at me, unable to suppress a smile. Always so charming, she replies dryly, but her voice softens when she adds, I never thought I'd meet a guy who'd go all out to gift me books. No one has ever cared that much about my bookworm tendencies. Well, I figured if I'm going to try and be part of your world, I should learn about it, I say, my tone a mix of sincerity and tenderness that is meant only for her. She slightly shakes her head at that and says wistfully, not sure why I'm still surprised by you. I shift in my chair, unsure of how long I'll be able to hold back the storm that's building inside me. I can't seem to stop watching her. The way her eyes light up when she talks about something she loves, or the way her fingers brush the edges of every book's pages as if she's savoring each word. It's all too perfect, too fragile, and it scares me. But then I hear the soft click of my front door shutting, and I freeze, with every muscle in my body immediately tensing. Harley notices the change in my demeanor immediately because she's as in tune with me as I am with her, and tilts her head slightly as she looks up at me from her book. Then her eyes narrow, sensing my unease, and she asks, "What's wrong?" Before I can tell her who she can expect to walk through the door any second now, the library door creaks open, and Griffin steps in without so much as a knock, like usual. I can't help the slight irritation that sputters in my chest, but I remind myself that until now, Griffin could come and go as he pleased. He didn't expect her here, so he wasn't aware he would be interrupting something. His gaze lands on me almost immediately, and our eyes lock briefly before his two perceptive, chocolate-brown orbs flick from mine to where Harley's standing off to the side. And when his eyes land on her, I see a spark of surprise before his face softens for a moment, but he quickly masks it with that trademark smirk of his. Well, 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 look who's made herself at home, he drawls, crossing the room towards her. She raises an amused brow at him before saying, You make it sound like I'm some kind of intruder. Griffin then shrugs, his smirk never leaving his face as he teases, I just didn't think you'd be so settled in already. Then, glancing back at me, he adds, I thought we were keeping this low-key, Thane. All these first editions might just be a bit much for your taste. I glare at him, but it's more out of habit than actual malice. He's just trying to break the tension like usual, and I'm too tired to fight it. Harley, on the other hand, grins at our sparring, but doesn't rise to the bait. Instead, she responds with a playful wink. You're just jealous he didn't gift you first editions. Griffin grins at her, unbothered. I get my very own special sort of gifts from him. Thank you very much. I smirk behind my hand at the two of them, a weird sense of relief settling over me. Their camaraderie is strangely calming, even if it annoys the hell out of me. Rolling my eyes at them, I deadpan. Can we keep the flirting to a minimum? You didn't just barge into my place to make small talk, did you? Griffin straightens at that, his usual professional demeanor slipping into place as he steps closer to me, his gaze shifting to something more serious. I've got an update for you. Can we talk? His words are clipped and direct, and I feel a knot tighten in my gut. I have a feeling I'm not going to like this conversation. Without even thinking, I get up and walk over to Harley, both hands on her hip, her eyes narrow, lean down, and press a light kiss to her forehead, murmuring, "We'll be right back." I nod, signaling Griffin to follow me, and we walk towards my office down the hall, leaving Harley behind in the library. The hallway is bathed in warm, muted light from the overhead fixtures, with soft shadows stretching from the baseboards as we pass. The walls are adorned with framed abstract art, the kind that never seems to give anything away but still invites curiosity. When we step into my office a few moments later, the space is cool, slightly dim, and filled with the sharp scent of rich mahogany and leather, which wraps around us. The glass windows behind my desk are still partially covered by heavy curtains, but the late afternoon sun is starting to spill through, casting horizontal bands of light across the floor and onto the dark wood of my desk. I don't sit down immediately. Instead, I cross to my desk and grip the edge while my mind is already working a mile a minute. Griffin sits down in one of the guest chairs, and his posture is rigid. The chair creaks slightly as he settles into it, his eyes scanning the room briefly before it lands back on me. He's always been the picture of calm, but I know him well enough by now to recognize the tension that's rippling beneath the surface. The air feels heavier now, charged with unspoken urgency. "Holland came through with more intel," Griffin says, diving straight into the matter. His voice is steady, but there's an edge to it that matches the sharpness in the air. "Raven and Andrus have been seen together multiple times in the last few months. We don't know what they're after yet, but they're working together. There's no doubt about it." I stand still, processing his words, and stare unseeingly at the smooth surface of my desk, which almost glistens in the filtered sunlight. Raven and Andrus. Two names from my past that I never thought would resurface, especially not together. They've always been dangerous as individuals, but in concert, nothing good can come of them working as a collective. "They're after something," I murmur, my voice low and almost lost in the silence of the room. "Something specific, my territory and my throne, most likely." Griffin nods, his gaze unwavering. His eyes flicker momentarily toward the window, catching a glimpse of the city's skyline before returning to meet mine. But his expression remains intense, sharp, as he says, "You're right. But it's not just about power anymore. We have reason to believe Harley's involved in some way. Not directly, but she's important to them. That's the piece we're missing." His words hit me like a blow to the chest, and the stillness of the room is almost oppressive now. I can hear the sound of my heart beating in my ears as the heavy thrum of blood rushes through my veins. "What do you mean?" I ask, barely able to contain my rising infuriation. "They know about her," he answers, his voice steady. "Not that she's your mate, but they know she means something to you. How they know, we're still trying to figure out, but that's what we have so far." The air feels like it's thickening around me, and I take a step back, my hands gripping the edge of the desk again, the cool wood somewhat grounding me. My thoughts whirl in a violent storm, and the weight of Griffin's words presses down on me, suffocating me. I feel my muscles tense involuntarily, and my fists clench as the fury begins to simmer just beneath my skin. "I'll kill them both." Griffin's gaze sharpens. "Not yet, Thane. We need more intel before we can make any moves. We don't know enough about what they're planning and why." I can feel the rage building inside me, hot and intense, as it courses through my veins. The shadows in the room seem darker now, the contrast of the sunlight spilling through the window becoming more pronounced, casting strange, long lines of light across the floor. "They're playing a dangerous game," I mutter, my voice a low growl. "They've underestimated me, and they've underestimated what I'm willing to do to protect what's mine." The words leave my mouth with a quiet finality, and they hang in the air between us like a warning. The silence stretches between us, thick and suffocating, and I can feel my fangs beginning to ache at the thought of anyone threatening Harley. The air in the room seems to grow colder, and I take a deep breath, my chest tight. The weight of everything, of the danger, of Harley's involvement, is crushing, and I feel the anger inside me, a living, breathing thing, clawing its way to the surface. My thoughts are spinning, and I can feel the unease swelling in the room, impenetrable and overpowering. The sound of my heart thundering in my chest is almost deafening as I turn to face Griffin, my eyes burning with unadulterated incense. If they think they can use Harley to get to me, they've made a grave fucking mistake. Griffin doesn't speak, but I know he's waiting for me to make a decision. The amber-filled decanter on the wet bar behind me gleams in the light, and before I can stop myself, I move towards it, my hand gripping the smooth crystal as I hurl it at the wall closest to the door. The sound of the bottle shattering into a million pieces is loud and sharp, echoing through the room and bouncing off the walls as the honey-colored liquid splatters across the floor and catches the light in fractured pieces of glass. The sight is a stark contrast to the tempest that's building inside me. And as the scent of the liquor fills the air, it mingles with the tense, suffocating atmosphere, causing my labored breathing to burn as it leaves my lungs. I feel my body's visceral reaction to my anger as my fangs extend and my claws emerge from my fingertips, all while I feel the familiar burning heat of fury flow through me. But it's different now. It's not the rage I've known for centuries. It's something newer, something scarier, something more vicious, something born from needing to protect what's mine. Every muscle in my body is tense with the need to destroy something, to lash out, but all I can do is stare at the ruin I've created and the remnants of the decanter that's now scattered across my office floor. Then I hear her voice, tentative, uncertain, drifting towards me from the threshold of my office. "Thane, is everything okay?" The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting soft, golden rays through the library windows, but I barely notice. My hands are busy sorting through all my new books, my fingers brushing the crisp pages as I settle in with my coffee, the warmth of the mug grounding me in a way I haven't felt in days. I take a small sip, savoring the taste, and glance over at Thane. He's on the opposite side of the room, leaning casually against one of the bookshelves, and even though his posture is relaxed, his eyes are fixed on me with that intense, almost quiet curiosity that never seems to go away. You know, I always thought first editions were a bit over the top, but I have to admit, you've got good taste, Draven. I tease as I place another book in its new spot. Strolling over to his desk chair and gracefully sitting down in it, Thane lets out the softest of chuckles before saying, "I've been known to have my moments," and I'm suddenly struck by how even the smallest expression on his face feels charged with meaning. "But really, you're the one with the good taste," he adds, his voice smooth and teasing. "I'm just here for the view." I roll my eyes, and a natural smile blooms on my face. "Always so charming," I reply sarcastically, but my voice turns wistful when I add, "You know, I never thought I'd meet a guy who'd go all out to gift me books. No one has ever cared that much about my bookworm tendencies." With a tone that's a mix of sincerity and that strange warmth I still can't quite get used to, Thane says, "Well, I figured if I'm going to try and be part of your world, I should learn about it." I shake my head lightly, returning my attention to the latest book in my hands, feeling a strange mixture of contentment and incredulity. "Not sure why I'm still surprised by you." Before he can answer, though, a strange sixth sense has my head lifting and my eyes gliding to Thane. He's on alert, his body tensing like a predator sensing movement in the distance. I swallow the nervous lump in my throat as I see him shift, his gaze narrowing, and I feel the subtle tension in the air. "What's wrong?" I ask, my own eyes narrowing as I watch him for any type of tell. I get my answer when a few seconds later, the one library door creaks open without so much as a tap of knuckles to warn the room's occupants of the approaching visitor's arrival. It's Griffin, because of course it is, strolling in as if he owns the place, as he flashes that signature grin of his, all easy charm and cocky confidence. His eyes go to Thane first, but then he must sense someone else in the room. And when he looks around and sees me standing there, a small amount of surprise crosses his features before he smirks and drawls, "Well, well, well, look who's made herself at home." I raise an eyebrow at him, amused by his typical lack of filter. "You make it sound like I'm some kind of intruder." Griffin shrugs, his smirk barely fading. "I just didn't think you'd be so settled in already," he teases, glancing back at Thane. "I thought we were keeping this low-key, Thane. All these first editions might just be a bit much for your taste." Thane glares at him, but I can tell it's more out of habit because there's absolutely no cruelty behind it. He doesn't reply to Griffin, and neither do I, but I am grinning at their back and forth like a loon. You're just jealous he didn't gift you first editions, I quip and add a wink for good measure. Griffin's grin widens. I get my very own special sort of gifts from him. Thank you very much, he replies, the teasing tone never leaving his voice. Thane rolls his eyes at our shenanigans and leans back in his chair with his arms crossed. Can we keep the flirting to a minimum? His voice is almost deadpan. You didn't just barge into my place to make small talk, did you? At Thane's question, Griffin's expression shifts almost immediately. Our casual banter fades, he becomes serious, and his voice is quieter when he answers, I've got an update for you. His eyes then flick to me briefly before they return to Thane as he asks, Can we talk? The atmosphere in the room is thick with tension, and my heart races as I stand there, frozen in the doorway. I can't move. My eyes are locked onto Thane, his body radiating heat as the red glow in his eyes flickers ominously. The sight of him, his fangs fully extended, his muscles tense like a predator about to strike, his claws protruding from his fingertips, takes my breath away. I didn't expect this. Not after the morning and afternoon we spent together. And certainly not after the calm we'd shared earlier in the library. This, though? This is something else entirely. My chest tightens, the familiar fear creeping up my spine as I'm rooted to the spot, unsure of how to react. Griffin is the first to react, and I can hear his footsteps as he quickly moves toward me, his usual calm replaced by something more urgent. He comes to a stop in front of me, his broad frame blocking my view of Thane, and he holds up a hand. His eyes are full of caution, and his tone is uncharacteristically serious as he warns, Don't approach him when he's like this. You don't know what he's capable of when he's lost control. I want to take a step forward, to go to him, but Griffin's words freeze me in place. The bond between me and Thane, the strange pull I feel toward him, tugs at me like a magnet, though. But there's also something terrifying about what I see in Thane right now, and I can't deny the fear that's growing inside me. Thane's low, animal-like growl sends a shiver down my spine when he says, Stay away from me, Harley. You don't want to see me like this. Despite Griffin's warning and Thane's growl, my feet seem to move on their own. Something deep, something inherent inside me tells me I have to reach him. This isn't just about what I feel for him. It's something primal, something far beyond what I can control. I glance at Griffin, and for a split second, I see the concern in his eyes, but I ignore it as I step around him, my heart pounding as I slowly move toward Thane. Thane doesn't say anything else, but I can feel the weight of his anger pressing against me, the air in the room thick with it. He stands there, his jaw clenched and his fists shaking at his sides. But even with all the rage that's inside him, I trust my instincts. I trust the pull that draws me to him, the need to close the distance between us. I stop just a foot in front of him and stand stock still as my heart beats erratically in my chest. I look up at him, my hands trembling, and then, slowly yet determinedly, I reach for him. I can hear Griffin rushing over, and with warning in his voice, he starts, Harley, don't. But before he can finish his sentence, I place both my hands gently on the sides of Thane's face, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath my palms. It's an intimate touch, one that feels like it should be reserved for moments of softness. Not this, but it's what I feel, deep down, is the right thing to do in this moment. A beat passes before Thane's eyes meet mine, but then the red that consumed them starts to fade from his gaze, slowly but surely, as if my touch is pulling him back to himself. The tension in his body begins to relax, and the sharp edge to his features softens. Thane exhales deeply, his shoulders slumping in relief, as his breathing steadies. The chaotic energy surrounding him also starts to dissipate, leaving behind the man I've come to know, intense, strong, but not a monster, not a threat. Hey there, I whisper to him, my voice barely audible, and yet it feels like it carries a ton of weight all on its own. My words are simple, but when they leave my mouth, it's like the last of the tension breaks between us. Thane's expression softens even further, and I feel the heat of his gaze settle into something gentler, something more familiar. Griffin, who has been watching us quietly, finally speaks up, and his voice is tinged with surprise and an amused undertone I can't ignore when he mutters, Well, I'll be damned. His words are almost a breath of disbelief as he shakes his head and a grin tugs at his lips. Never thought I'd see the day when someone tames the Thane Draven. I can't help but chuckle, a small laugh escaping me as I keep my hands on Thane's face. There's a strange warmth that spreads through me, seeing him so vulnerable. It's a side of him I never thought I'd get to witness, but here I am, touching him, soothing him. I didn't expect this to be how things played out, like at all, but I'm not complaining in the least. Before I can say anything else, Griffin steps toward the office door, his voice casual as he glances back at us. "I'll get Thane some water," he says, a light chuckle escaping him as he walks out of the room. I stand there, my hands still resting on Thane's face, as I gaze up at him, my heart still racing from the intensity of what just happened. The atmosphere between us has shifted, though. There's a new understanding between us now, a bond forged not just through the physical, but through a moment of real connection. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of the silence around us. And even though my own thoughts are still running, I know I need to ask the one question that feels the most natural, the most real, after what just happened. So I tilt my head slightly, look up at him with curiosity, and my voice is quiet but steady when I ask, "Do you want to talk about it?" My eyes search his as I wait for him to reply, wanting to know what's going on behind the cool mask he's been wearing. Thane's expression is unreadable for a moment, but there's a flicker in his eyes that tells me he's still processing everything. He doesn't speak at first, and his breath is slow and measured, but then he nods slowly, as if making up his mind about something, and the room is filled with a new kind of tension, one that doesn't feel dangerous, but rather filled with anticipation. And even though we're standing in a place of quiet understanding, there's so much left unsaid. Yet I know for the first time that whatever happens next, we'll face it together. The anger that had gripped me only moments ago still simmers beneath the surface. And even though Harley's soft touch has grounded me, the weight of the situation, the threat I'm facing, and the danger surrounding her, it still lingers. I can't ignore it. I don't want to ignore it. The bond between us is undeniable now. When she calmed me down earlier, it only solidified what I already knew deep down. She has the power to undo me. It's terrifying, and at the same time, it's the only thing that makes me feel anything real anymore. But that's a double-edged sword, too. I know I have to protect her, but the more I let her in, the harder it will be to keep her safe. The more I love her, the more vulnerable I become. My thoughts are still clouded as I watch her, her gaze still searching mine. But it's the unflinching resolve in them that helps me decide what happens next. I need to tell her. The weight of the threat, the danger, it's too much to keep from her any longer. I can't keep her in the dark. Not anymore. Before I can voice any of this to her, the door to the office creaks open, and Griffin strolls in again. He's holding a couple of bottles of water in his hand, placing them on the polished surface of my desk. "Everything okay in here?" he asks, arching an eyebrow. He looks between us, his usual teasing smile briefly crossing his lips before he sees the tension in the air. I meet his gaze over her shoulder, and without needing further explanation, I tell him, I'm going to tell her everything. I then take a deep breath, the weight of the words heavy on my chest, because I know once I do, there's no going back. Griffin nods solemnly, giving me a knowing look before saying, "Good call, boss, it's time." He steps towards the guest chair he sat in earlier, sinks onto it, and then waits, allowing me to lead this conversation. Taking a step back, I sit down behind my desk, and for a moment, I watch Harley as she moves to join Griffin on the other side. But then something inside me stirs, the bond between us tugging at my chest, urging me to pull her back to me. So I don't think, I just act. I gently reach for her hand and slightly pull her toward me. "Sit with me?" I ask quietly. She looks at me for a moment, searching my expression, before she nods and then moves easily, settling sideways on my lap with an ease that only deepens the connection I feel towards her. When her one hand naturally comes to rest on my chest, I find myself relaxing slightly. My right hand slides underneath her sweater and comes to rest on her bare hip bone, allowing me to feel the heat of her skin, and the mundane contact grounds me in a way nothing else can right now. My left hand goes to her upper thighs, pulling her that much closer to me. With everything that's happening and everything that's about to unfold, this moment, holding her like this, keeps me tethered to something real. Thane, she says softly, her voice warm against the quiet tension in the air. What's going on? What's all this about? Her question brings me back to the task at hand, so I strengthen my resolve not to let myself get lost in her. Not now. Taking a steadying breath, I turn to Griffin, and he matter-of-factly starts to explain. Holland, our cybersecurity expert, found out that two of our old acquaintances, Raven and Andras, have been seen together several times recently. And even though we don't know exactly what they're planning, the mere fact that they're in contact with each other is worrying enough. I watch Harley's reaction closely as she listens to Griffin, her face still thoughtful, but I can see the concern creeping into the edges of her expression. Who are they? She asks after a beat, her voice steady, but I can hear the undercurrent of uncertainty. Raven and Andras, I explain. They're both powerful, dangerous vampires. Raven and I have a complicated history, to put it mildly. She wanted more than just power. She wanted me to be my mate. But I never felt the bond like I do with you. I pause, watching Harley's expression shift as I bring up my ex. And Andras is my cousin. He's always wanted what I have. He always believed the Vampire King title should have been his. He wants power, my place, my throne. I lean back in my chair then, my hands still holding onto Harley's hip and leg, as I continue. They're after more than just my territory now, though. They want to take everything from me, and they'll use any means necessary. Griffin's voice cuts in, hesitant but clear. They know about you, Harley. Not that you guys are fated mates, but they know you are important to him. We don't know how yet, but it's enough for them to start using you against him. I feel my heart slam against my breastbone, the rage inside me again, rising like an uncontrollable storm. I want to snap. I want to destroy something. Anything. But I force myself to stay calm, knowing that if I lose control now, I'll only make things worse. Harley stays quiet for a few moments, her unseeing gaze locked onto my Edvard Munch painting titled Vampire that's mounted on the wall beside my desk, as she absorbs the weight of what we've just told her. I can see the storm of thoughts running behind her eyes, the worry, the confusion. But I can't rush her or her thought process. I can't force her into something that she never wanted to begin with. You didn't sign up for this, I say quietly, my voice thick with guilt. I'm sorry for dragging you into my world, but with this new intel, it's too late to turn back. She looks at me then, and for a long moment I feel the full weight of her gaze before it becomes clear. She's not running, and she's not backing away. Her voice is steady, but there's a vulnerability to it too. What now? She asks. What do we do? I swallow hard as I feel the power behind her question. The answer isn't easy. It never is when you're dealing with the darkness of the world I come from. Now, I start softly. We wait. We plan, and I protect what's mine. My left hand moves up to rest on the back of her neck, and I pull her in closer until our foreheads are touching, cradling her there. And in the midst of everything that's threatening to consume me, her touch, her presence, feels like a lifeline. As I sit there, with her in my arms, everything feels right. And even though the storm is coming, and even though the danger is real, I have her. And that's enough. The air in the room is thick with silence, hanging heavy between us as I sit on his lap with our foreheads pressed together. Griffin leaves the room at one point, muttering something along the lines of giving us a minute. His exit doesn't ease the tension, though. If anything, it amplifies it, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my overwhelming urge to make sense of everything they had just told me. Sitting here on Thane's lap, his presence a constant weight, is both reassuring and terrifying. And even though his eyes are closed just like mine, his attention is fixed on me, unwavering, and I can feel the gravity of his devotion. He's waiting for me to process it all. He's waiting for me to make a decision. But how do you make a decision when the weight of a vampire kingdom, its threats, and our bond are suddenly pressing down on you? My heart beats erratically in my chest as I try to sift through the jumble of emotions. The idea of running, of walking out of this penthouse and never looking back is so tempting, so easy. I could disappear from all of this and go back to the life I knew before Thane Draven came crashing into it. But as I sit here with his warmth beneath me, something tugs at me. The bond between us. It's undeniable. It's like it's calling me to stay and to face the unknown with him. And it's not just for him. I'm doing this for me too. For the parts of me that want to be with him, no matter the chaos that swirls around us. I swallow hard, trying to shove my doubts aside, but they keep coming back. What if I can't handle this life? What if I'm too human for him? Too fragile for the world he's lived in for centuries? But then, with a finger beneath my chin, he tilts my head up, and as I open my eyes, those intense eyes, meet mine again, and I know there's no running away from this. So, without overthinking it any further, I lean in. Slowly, carefully, my breath mingles with his, as I let the silence between us stretch, thick with the weight of our unspoken words, and then I kiss him. At first, it's soft and tentative, as if we're both testing the waters. His lips are warm against mine, almost hesitant, but there's a hunger in the way he deepens the kiss. It's like he's been waiting for me to make the first move, and now that I have, he's eager to follow my lead. His hands find my waist, pulling me that much closer, and I feel the strength in his arms, in the way he holds me like I might break, but also like he wants to make sure I don't escape. The kiss deepens as the seconds pass, and the world outside of this room blurs into nothingness. There's nothing but the heat of his mouth on mine, the slide of our lips against each other, and the fire that's building between us. My body reacts to him in ways I can't ignore, and I feel the pulse in my veins quicken as he leans into me. And then, without warning, his lips find my pulse point with scary precision, and I feel his hot breath against my skin as his nose trails along my neck. Inhaling deeply, he groans softly, "Fuck, you smell good." And in that moment, the thought of him sinking them into me, of him marking me, of him claiming me, sends a fresh rush of heat through my body. It's dangerous, and it's too much, but for the life of me, I'm struggling to find a reason to stop myself from pulling him even closer. I don't know how long we've been like this, locked in this fiery, all-consuming embrace, but I know that everything has shifted. The bond between us is no longer just an idea. It's real. It's visceral. And I'm not sure if I can ever go back to the way things were before I met Thane. Do I really want to, though? Suddenly, I feel his hands gently guiding me away from his chest, and he pulls back just enough to look at me. His gaze is still intense and lust-filled, but there's something softer there now, too. Vulnerability, maybe? His breathing is as heavy as mine, and I can feel the rapid beat of his heart beneath my palms. "Are you sure about this?" he asks, his voice low and hoarse from arousal. I stare at him for a second, my heart still pounding in my chest. "I'm sure," I whisper, "but I don't know just yet what this means for us. For me, for everything." Thane smiles then, his expression softening for the first time since we started this whirlwind. "We'll figure it out, together," he says quietly, and I can feel the weight of his words, the promise in them. And I allow myself to believe him. The soft click of the door behind me is the only sound as I step back into the library. The weight of the conversation in Thane's office still lingers on my chest like a heavy stone, but the quiet of the library space is almost a relief. The books, the smell of old leather and coffee, the silent city far down below the windows, all of it is a stark contrast to the chaos that's running rampant inside me. I left him in his office so he could find Griffin and give him instructions on what should happen next. And so I could take a minute for myself to try and corral my thoughts and bring my erratic heartbeat to a normal rhythm. I walk to the corner of the room near the fireplace, and my steps are slow and deliberate. I can still feel the heat of Thane's presence like a phantom on my skin, and my heart won't stop pounding in my chest. The bond between us is stronger than I want it to be, and it's hard to ignore it when every instinct in my body wants to turn back and run straight into his arms. But I can't. Not yet. There's too much I don't understand, too much about this world that I can't even begin to wrap my mind around. The weight of what I've just learned, the danger, the power, the past, sits heavily on my shoulders. But the thing that unsettles me the most isn't the supernatural world that I'm being pulled into. It's the way I feel about him. Thane Draven, a vampire king. A man who commands respect and fear in equal measure. A man who can shatter a room with his rage. A man who, despite all of that, spent today doing what I wanted, tried new things and experiences for me, and even made space for me in his home. I close my eyes for a moment and slowly take a breath in. My hands are still trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization that this isn't just a fling or some passing attraction. Not anymore. This. This is something more profound, something that I don't think either of us was ready for. I force my eyes open, focusing on all the books around me. I'll focus on this, on something tangible. While I sort through everything in my head, I decide. And as my fingers skim over the various spines, I find comfort in the familiarity of the tomes. But it isn't long before my thoughts drift yet again to Thane. His voice, low and commanding, his eyes, intense with something I can't name, his touch that makes me feel safe and vulnerable all at once. God, Harley, I mutter under my breath. What the hell are you doing? A nervous laugh escapes me, and I shake my head, turning my attention back to the shelves. I try again to distract myself by organizing the books, but nothing seems to help. The weight of the truth is right there, buried underneath everything I'm trying to ignore. He's not just a vampire, he's a king. He's powerful, dangerous, and yet, in some strange way, he's offering me something I didn't think I could have. His trust, his need for me. But what does that mean for me? The safe thing, the smart thing would be to walk away because I don't belong in this world. I'm just a normal woman, and this whole situation is way over my head. I could disappear from his life. I could go back to what I know, things that are familiar, safe, and predictable. And yet, here I am, standing in his penthouse, feeling drawn to him like a moth to a flame. The pull between us is undeniable and is strengthening with every moment we spend together. But I can't just ignore the fear that's gnawing at me. The fear that once I step into his world, there's no coming back. Ever. I pick up one of the last romance novels from the stack and run my fingers over the cover's embossed lettering. Like most of the others, it's a first edition. It's the kind of book I never thought I'd have a chance to own. And now, here I am, sitting in his world, surrounded by more wealth than I've ever known or could fathom. I put the book on the shelf with a sigh, feeling a little lost. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to being so connected to someone, so tied to a situation I don't fully understand. I glance at the vintage cuckoo clock on the wall. It's late afternoon now, and the light filtering in through the windows is soft, the sun low in the sky, almost reaching out to the horizon. I don't know how long I've been here, lost in my thoughts, but it's becoming clearer and clearer that I won't be able to avoid what's happening between us for much longer. I could walk away, and would I? A part of me aches at the thought of leaving him, at the thought of walking out of this penthouse and never looking back, so much so that I have to wrap an arm around my middle to quiet the phantom pain-like feeling. But another part of me, a stronger part, knows I'm not ready to leave. I'm about to turn and start pacing to try and get rid of some of this pent-up energy, but then I hear a soft sound from the doorway. I look up and see Thane standing there, his broad frame filling the space, as he leans with one shoulder against the doorframe with his arms crossed casually. He's just watching me quietly, his expression unreadable, and at the sight, my heart skips a beat. "Harley," he says softly, his voice a little hoarse, like he's just woken up from a long, restless sleep. I've been thinking about what we talked about earlier. I swallow hard, unsure of how to respond. The tension in the air is thick now, and I feel that pull toward him again, and this time it's stronger than ever. But I don't move towards him, not yet. I need him to come to me, if he's willing. Standing up straight, he steps closer to me, and I don't move as I watch him approach, but my breath catches in my throat. "Harley, you don't have to decide anything definitive right now," he starts, his voice quiet but filled with an intensity that makes the air feel electric. "But I need you to understand something. I can't promise you a life without danger, but I can promise you this. I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe. I won't let anything happen to you, not while I'm here." I look at him, and my heart is pounding as I take in the sincerity in his eyes. The promise in his words is more than just reassurance. It's a vow. "I know," I say softly, finally finding my voice. "I know you'll try." He nods, his eyes passionate with something I can't quite read. "It's not just a try, Harley. It's a promise. I'll never allow anything to happen to you, even if you do choose to walk away from me, from us. Not now, not ever. And in that moment, as I stare into his earnest gaze, I realize that no matter what happens next, my life will never be the same. I've got Harley hand in mine, and I'm leading her out of the penthouse and toward my private elevator. I can feel the weight of our conversations still hanging between us like a thick fog, but it's different now. There's a new understanding between us, unspoken yet clear. She's not running. Not yet. And neither am I. A few seconds later, we step out of the elevator and onto my private rooftop terrace, the doors silently sliding closed behind us, and I'm almost surprised by the way the space feels. Welcoming. It's open and expansive, with a sprawling, almost 360-degree view of the city below, and it's currently bathed in the soft hues of the fading sun. There's a comfortable seating area off to the right, featuring plush cushions and tufted sofas beneath a glass-roofed pergola that invites you to relax. Copious amounts of string lights hang from above, their soft glow casting a warm ambiance throughout the space. The plants scattered all over also catch my attention. Lush greenery stretches around the terrace, climbing up trellises and hanging in baskets. The space is tranquil, almost untouched, despite the fact that I've spent far too much time in this apartment and barely glanced at it. I've never truly used it, or more accurately, I never truly allowed myself to enjoy it. Not like this. Harley, though. Her eyes instantly light up when she steps out onto the terrace. She walks forward without waiting to see if I'll follow, taking in her surroundings. Her gaze roams over the vibrant plants, the lights, and the open space as she smiles. All the while, her expression is a mix of awe and appreciation, and it causes me to feel a strange pull in my chest. "This is beautiful," she murmurs as she takes another step forward and her fingers brush lightly over a hanging fern. Her voice is soft, and I realize I haven't seen her this genuinely relaxed, except for when she was shelving her books in the library earlier. It's as if the weight of the world seems to lift off her shoulders in the comfort of this space. "I'm glad you like it," I say quietly, as I watch her closely. "You can do whatever you want with it. This is your place too, Harley. It's yours to shape, to make whatever you need it to be." Her eyes flick back to me, and there's a hint of surprise that sparks in them as she processes my words. I don't know why I'm offering it, why I'm giving her this piece of my life, but it feels right. It feels like something I need to do, like a promise to her that I can't keep her in a cage, no matter how much my instincts scream otherwise. She tilts her head and her lips curl up at the corners as she says, "I don't think I'll do much to it, but thank you for letting me know it's here." I step towards the seating area and offer her a seat in one of the plush chairs, 2 wine glasses, and a bottle of wine already set on the small side table beside it. I pour the rich red wine that I asked Griffin earlier to bring up here into the 2 glasses and hand one to her as I settle into the seat next to her. The silence between us that follows as we sip our wine feels comfortable, like we've both been given permission to just exist in the moment, with no expectations and no pressure. I watch as Harley takes another sip from her glass, and her gaze is distant for a moment. I can see her thoughts swirling, and her internal conflict is still very much present. She's grappling with something. I can feel it. It's more than just the weight of the supernatural world I've thrust upon her. It's deeper than that. It's about us, about what we are, and what we could be. We stay on the terrace as the rest of the evening winds down, the air now cool against the warm glow of the string lights around us. The sky has shifted from a soft blue to a darkened navy, and the city lights sparkle beneath us like a million tiny stars. The quiet hum of the night surrounds us, but the tension from earlier feels lighter now. Harley's here with me, and we're finally able to breathe. But Harley, being Harley, is having none of the brooding vibe. And after a long, drawn-out silence, she puts down her wine glass and lets out a dramatic sigh. "Enough of the doom and gloom, Count Dracula," she says with a smile that's equal parts mischievous and tired. "Let's order some pizza before I have to head home." I freeze, a shudder running through me at the very thought. Pizza? Takeout pizza, no less? I can't hide my grimace as I repeat, "Pizza," like she's just asked me to eat dirt. You do know I have a private chef who makes a far better version than anything you'll ever find in a cardboard box. She looks at me with a raised eyebrow, and her lips curve into that irrepressible grin I can't seem to resist. Ah, so now we're not just living in your penthouse, but also your world of luxury, huh? I narrow my eyes at her and she crosses her arms, clearly waiting for me to concede. It takes all of 2 seconds before she adds, "Come on, Thane, live on the wild side for once." I scoff, shaking my head, but I'm having trouble denying the smirk that's tugging at the corners of my mouth. I'm not sure the wild side includes pizza that comes in a box that's been sitting under a heat lamp. Exactly, she teases, throwing her hands up in mock frustration. Which is why we need to do this. You're in the wrong world, Draven. You need to embrace your rebellious side. I stare at her, and we lock eyes for a beat, and the playful tension between us becomes palpable. Finally, I throw up my hands in defeat. Fine, but I'm ordering 2 pizzas, one for you and one for me. Her face lights up with a victorious grin and she hops up from the chair. Deal. And none of that boring stuff like plain cheese or pepperoni. We're doing this right. I can feel the eye roll that's forming at the back of my head, but instead, I give in to her madness. Okay, fine. I'll let you pick the toppings. But if there's pineapple involved, we're done here. She laughs, and her eyes are dancing with mischievous joy. You're the one who's being boring. Trust me, you've never truly lived until you've had pineapple and ham on pizza. It's a divine combination. I give her a flat look, but she's already pulling out her phone to place the order, with an irresistible smirk on her face. You really want me to order a pizza that I know I'm not going to like? She grins as she taps away on her screen. Yes, I do. After a few moments of playful back and forth, the pizzas are ordered. One with all the toppings I would never have chosen for myself, and one with the safe choices I can live with. We then settle into a light-hearted silence as the night stretches out before us. When my phone vibrates 30 minutes later with the notification from the building's doorman that the pizza delivery guy is on his way up, I get up to go and fetch it. When we're back inside my apartment and I'm strolling to the front door, I ask her over my shoulder, "Mind setting the table for us while I grab these?" "Oh, come on," Harley says with a mischievous glint in her eye. "You're not really going to be all fancy and bring it to the dining table, are you?" I pause at the door and glance back at her. "Where else would we eat it?" "We're taking the boxes to the living room," she declares, already heading in that direction with a smile. "We'll be sitting on the floor like regular people and eating like we're not billionaires." I laugh under my breath at her antics, more than willing to indulge her. I grab the pizzas when the scrawny kid steps out of the elevator, tip him generously, and then I join her in the living room. Harley has already plopped herself down on the rug in front of the coffee table, and I have no choice but to follow her example and sit across from her. The floor feels foreign to me, but I push through. She's clearly enjoying it, so that's enough for me. We eat straight from the boxes, and the warm smell of cheesy bread and spicy sauce wafts up between us. Every bite tastes better than I expected, and I can't help but enjoy the simplicity of it. The more we eat, the more the conversation shifts into playful jabs and light teasing, creating a balance of easy comfort and slow-building tension. At one point, Harley takes a bite, and some of the pizza sauce stays behind right below her bottom lip. I don't even think about it, as my hand reaches out instinctively and my thumb brushes across her plump lower lip before sweeping up the errant sauce. As my eyes lock with hers, I lick the sauce off my thumb in a slow and deliberate move before I murmur, "Delicious." Her breath catches as she watches me intently, and the temperature between us rises instantly. My heart pounds as I realize just how much I want her, how badly I crave this connection. Her eyes darken, and she leans in closer to me, as if drawn towards me against her better judgment. But before she can speak or take this moment further, I pull back slightly and run a hand through my hair. The tension is so thick between us that I can practically taste it as Harley's lips part slightly, and she breathes out in a barely audible whisper. After a beat, she says, "I should probably be heading home." Her words are soft and laced with an uncertainty that only makes me want her more. The air continues to crackle between us with desire, but I know she's still processing, still deciding. And even though I don't want her to leave, not now and not like this, I respect her enough not to push this connection between us before she's ready and without doubts. For a long moment after that, neither of us says anything as we continue to nibble on the last pieces of our pizzas. And even though silence fills the space between us, thick and heavy with attraction, neither of us seems ready to break it, afraid of where it'll lead if we do. The drive back to my place is quiet, save for the soft hum of the engine and the occasional tap of my fingers on the seat next to me, a nervous habit I've never been able to shake. Thane's been oddly quiet, and I can't help but feel the weight of everything between us. The kiss we shared earlier in his office is still fresh on my lips, and I can't stop replaying it in my head. I want more of him, but at the same time, I need to figure out what comes next before we go there. Mike doesn't speak much either, and his eyes are fixed ahead on the road as he drives us through the city. It's late now, and the streets are bathed in the orange glow of the streetlights. I feel like I should be asleep by now, but my mind is far too busy to allow that. The events of the day are still swirling in my head. The weight of the things we talked about, the closeness I'm starting to feel with Thane, and the more I think about it, the more confused I become. I glance at Thane next to me, and his profile is cast in the dim glow of the car's interior. He's staring out of his window, but I catch the way his jaw clenches every few seconds, like he's deep in thought. I wonder if he's thinking about the same things I am. His hand is resting casually on his knee, but I want to reach over and take it so I can feel the warmth of him again. I want more than just his hand, though. I want him. But I also know that what we're doing and what's developing between us is far from simple. I can't ignore the reality of the situation. He's a vampire, and I'm just me, a normal mortal woman. What does that even mean for us? How do we navigate that? Are you okay? I ask eventually, my voice breaking the silence, though it comes out quieter than I meant. He turns to me, and his eyes lock with mine. And for a moment, it feels like the world outside the car doesn't exist anymore. There's just us, and this space between us that's filled with so many unspoken things. He doesn't say anything at first, just gives me a slight, almost imperceptible nod. Yeah, he finally murmurs, just processing. And then he asks, you? His reply is enough to make my heart beat a little faster. I nod once, not sure what to say next. The truth is, I'm not okay. At least I'm not sure I am. I'm tangled up in this, in him, and it's fucking terrifying. A few minutes later, the car comes to a stop in front of my townhouse, and I feel the weight of the moment as it settles over me. I swallow hard and glance up at the building I've called home for so long. But now, after everything that's happened today, it feels strange, like it's part of a different world. I turn to face Thane, who's already looking at me, and even though his expression is unreadable, there's something soft in his eyes. Something unspoken, yet clear. Thanks for everything today, I say, trying to break the tension. I think I needed it. Thane simply nods, his hand resting on his door handle, ready to exit the car. But before he opens the door, he pauses, and his gaze intensifies. Harley, he says quietly, his voice low and sincere, I'll never force you into something you don't want, but if you ever feel like you're ready, just know I'm here. I stare at him for a long moment as I try to process the weight of his words, the intensity of it, the openness he's offering me. I finally nod and break eye contact with Thane as Mike opens my door for me. My heart is beating erratically as I step out of the car, the cold air hitting me as I start to make my way up the walkway, and I hear Thane getting out behind me, his footsteps steady and sure. I reach for my house keys, my hands trembling slightly as I rummage through my bag, and when I eventually am able to unlock the door, I hear Thane's voice from right behind me. Harley, he starts, and this time, when I turn around, I see the hesitation in his eyes. The first thing I notice when I wake up the next morning is how damn well I slept. I actually slept. Like for real. There was no restless tossing and turning, and no running thoughts keeping me up all night. My head is clearer, and even my body feels more rested. And for the first time in a long while, I don't feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I stretch, and the sheets are cool and inviting against my skin, and for a split second, I consider calling in sick like a naughty schoolgirl who wants to play hooky with her boyfriend. But it's Monday, and it's time to roll out of bed, drag myself through another day of bookstore chaos, and pretend like the drama from the weekend doesn't exist. The smile that tugs at my lips, however, makes me feel like I'm fooling myself. Thane. Yeah, that's the name I keep coming back to, along with a smile that isn't under my control and a chest that's full of things I'm not ready to acknowledge yet. I drag myself into the shower, the hot water washing away the last remnants of the previous night's fog, and mentally prepare for the first day back at the bookstore after the weekend. As I brush through my still damp hair, I wonder just how much of this I'm really prepared for. The pull between us, the weird connection. It's all there, and I can feel it deep down, even though I've barely begun to figure it out. By the time I'm dressed in a fitted black sweater, dark jeans, and ankle boots, I'm in somewhat of a daze. I grab a granola bar on my way out the front door and head toward the bookstore. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, but for the first time in a while, the tension in my chest has softened, even if it's just a little. As soon as I step into the store, I spot Gemma leaning against the front counter, tapping away on her phone. She looks up and grins at me, clearly in a teasing mood, but when her gaze falls to the massive bouquet of blue irises on the counter next to the register, her smile grows. Well, well, she says, pushing herself off the counter. Look who's popular. Who's the lucky guy? I roll my eyes as I approach the counter. Don't get too excited, Gem. You'll be disappointed to find out it's not from some dreamy new guy with a six-pack and a great smile. They're just flowers. Her eyes widen with amusement. Just flowers? Are you kidding me? That bouquet's the size of your torso. That's not just flowers, honey. Someone's trying to get your attention, or impress you, or maybe both. I just stare at her blankly, but a playful smirk is trying its damnedest to play at the corner of my mouth. I can't let her know I'm secretly happy about the flowers. Not yet, because I'll never hear the end of it. I step behind the counter, but I can't seem to keep the blooming grin off my face. Damn it, flowers have never swayed me, and it feels like I'm betraying my sarcastic and cynical nature. But here I am, standing in front of a bunch of flowers with a huge, stupid grin. Gemma's eyes keep flicking between mine and the bouquet, patiently waiting for me to spill the beans. But I'm not going to make it easy for her. I'm not ready to say anything about who sent them just yet. Go ahead, she prompts again. Tell me, who's the mystery guy? I chuckle, leaning my hip against the counter. I'll tell you later. I pause, then look at the flowers again. But I'm pretty sure he's not your type. Gemma raises an eyebrow. Not my type? Now I really want to know who sent you those. Refusing to say anything else, I reach for the attached card that's now visible from this angle and carefully open it to reveal Thane's familiar handwriting. Thought you might appreciate these. I can't help the smile that tugs at my lips. It's short and sweet and not overly emotional, exactly the way he is. Despite everything that's happened between us, there's something oddly warming about the gesture. It's not over the top, but it's more than I expected. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything from the past few days settle inside me as I grab my phone from my back pocket. I at last got his number last night while we were sitting on his living room floor and gorging ourselves on greasy pizza, so I'm now able to open a message window to him and quickly type out a message. Thanks for the flowers. They're beautiful. Definitely made my day a little brighter. I hit send, not expecting anything back, and set the phone down, intent on starting my day of stock lists, rearranging displays, and dealing with entitled Karens who want to preach to me about the written porn I sell at my store. But not even a minute later, a reply pops up, and I'm honestly a little surprised by how fast he responds. Good, but they're just flowers, so don't get used to it. But if it helped brighten your day, I'll gladly take credit for your smile. I can't stop the chuckle that escapes me. The message is so typically him, and yet something in the way he words it makes me appreciate it a little more. Before I get to type a response back, though, Gemma's voice breaks through the moment and calls me over to help carry boxes from the storeroom. The rest of the morning passes in a blur of customers, checking inventory, and typical mundane store duties. Gemma keeps up her teasing about the flowers, but at least she backs off when I tell her I'll reveal more later. By the time lunch rolls around, I'm still thinking about Thane and the odd feeling that comes with receiving a gift from him, from our text exchange, and even the tone of his words. He just has this way of pulling me in without ever saying the things I expect him to say. As the clock ticks closer to noon, I can't shake the idea that there's more to this than just flowers. More to him than I've been able to figure out yet. It's just past lunchtime on Monday when I stroll into Harley's bookstore, the faint jingle of the bell above the door greeting me. I'm used to the cold, sleek modernity of Thane's world, but stepping into this place is like walking into another dimension. The warmth, the coziness, and the cluttered charm hit me immediately. It feels human, simple. There's no pressure to impress and no polished exterior to uphold, just books, coffee, and the kind of soft atmosphere that makes you want to linger longer than you originally intended. It's the complete opposite of Thane's penthouse and offices, and for a second it's almost jarring. I'm not used to such unassuming spaces. For a second, I stop just inside the door and adjust the bag of takeout I brought for Harley and me. I could have had this delivered to her, sure, but where's the fun in that? I step deeper into the bookstore and immediately take in the familiar scent of coffee and paper that lingers in the air. It's a warm and inviting space, welcoming. It's nothing like the high-rise penthouse or boardrooms I'm used to. As my gaze sweeps over the shop, I spot Harley tucked into a back corner, reading a book. But it's the bouquet of flowers on the front counter that catches my attention next, and a smile tugs at the corner of my lips. I know exactly who those are from. Harley, I call out and start walking toward her. She looks up when she hears her name, and her eyes flicker in surprise when she sees it's me, before her usual sarcasm kicks in. Griffin, you stalking me now, too? You know, it's one thing when Thane does it, but now you as well? Her tone is light, but I catch the subtle softness in her eyes. She's teasing, but there's something else behind it, something a little warmer. I raise an eyebrow at her, leaning casually against a nearby shelf. I come bearing lunch, I say, holding up the takeout bag. If you'll have me. She eyes the bag with a skeptical glance, but doesn't refuse. You might have to convince me. I chuckle as I hand the paper bag to her. Well, I've got something good for both of us. I thought you might want to skip your usual boring lunch routine. Harley rolls her eyes at me, a smirk tugging at her lips as she peers inside the bag, and then replies, If you're trying to bribe me, Griffin, I'm pretty sure there are easier ways. Grinning at her, I deadpan, and here I thought food was the way to your heart. Guess I'm learning more about you by the minute. Before she can reply, though, I hear footsteps approaching from behind me. An older woman with eccentric, brightly colored clothes and a bold energy walks up to where we're still standing between the shelves, and her eyes immediately catch mine. She's got this confidence about her that's impossible to miss. Oh my, she says, eyeing me with a playful grin. I didn't expect to see someone as handsome as you around here. I smile, intrigued by her personality already. I could say the same about you. Harley laughs lightly, then leans her back against the shelf behind her. Griffin, meet Gemma. Gemma, this is Griffin. Gemma looks me over with a knowing look, then gives me a playful wink. A pleasure, Griffin. I can tell we're going to get along just swimmingly. She laughs, then gestures to Harley. You here to steal her coffee? Or are you the mystery man that sent her that? She asks as she points back to the bouquet at the front of the store. She looks me up and down with a mischievous glint in her eye, then adds, If so, I wish I were 20 years younger. I laugh lightly, catching on to her innuendo. I'll have to keep that in mind. Thanks for the compliment, though. Gemma snorts, tapping Harley on the shoulder as she moves to grab something from the shelf to her left. Careful, Harley. You better hold on to this one, or I may have to teach him a thing or two. Harley watches the two of us banter, and I can't help but notice the small, contented smile on her face. It's obvious she's happy we're getting along, and I can't deny the feeling it gives me. being accepted so easily into her world. As Gemma turns to get back to work, she looks at Harley with a raised eyebrow, and her tone is suddenly light and teasing as she asks, "So, are you ready to tell me who's the lucky guy that's sending you flowers, Harley? The one that has you smiling like a teenager?" Raising an eyebrow and clearly enjoying myself, I cryptically answer Gemma before Harley can. "If you ask me, I'm guessing it's from a guy who spends his free time thinking about work and who thinks a bouquet is the most personal gesture he can manage." Harley's cheeks flush slightly, but she plays it cool. "You're a real piece of work, Griffin," she mutters, but there's no bite to it. I raise my hands in mock surrender, enjoying our repartee. Guilty as charged. Gemma leans in, clearly intrigued by this whole situation. "Is Griffin the same guy from last week, Harley? You know, the one who was always lurking in the back of your mind and had you all mushy-brained?" Harley rolls her eyes, clearly unamused by Gemma's relentless teasing. "I don't know what you're talking about." I grin, crossing my arms over my chest. Maybe she's just trying to keep things private. You know, not all of us are as open about our personal lives. Gemma, however, is clearly having too much fun with this. She glances between us, a playful smirk pulling at her lips. Sure, but I know for a fact that Harley's definitely not the type to be caught smiling over just anyone. "Would you stop?" Harley mutters, shaking her head as she tries to hide her smile, though it's obvious she's not entirely annoyed by our attention. Gemma laughs and walks away, her focus shifting to some customers who've come in, while Harley leads me to the front of the store to a small seating area with a small coffee table. I then take a seat across from her, finally giving her a bit of space after our playful exchanges. I can't help but notice the subtle change in her demeanor as she looks over at the flowers again. Her smile is softer now, more genuine. The delicate petals shimmer under the warm light streaming in through the front window, and there's a vulnerability in the way she looks at them, something tender that I don't see often in the people that surround me on a daily basis. It's refreshing. "You really do have a smile that could light up a room," I say as I carefully watch her. My words are almost a whisper, but it's a truth I can't keep to myself. She looks up at me, the softness still lingering in her eyes. "They're just flowers," she hedges, but her words come out with a tenderness I wasn't expecting. I lean in slightly, the corners of my mouth twitching upward. "You sure? They seem to be doing wonders for you." She lets out a soft laugh, but there's a hint of something more, something vulnerable even, hiding behind her usual sharpness. In the short while I've come to know Harley, I've noticed the way she guards herself, keeps things close to her chest, not wanting to give too much away. It's something I can relate to, but I also want to push her to let me in, to let someone in. If she's planning on joining our world, she's going to need someone in her corner who's not her mate. "I guess so," she mutters, her gaze dropping down to where she placed our lunch on the coffee table between us, as if she's trying to hide what just flashed across her face. Then, to change the subject, she asks, "So, what brings you to my humble little bookstore? Besides bringing lunch, of course." I let out a breath, glad she's shifting the conversation, but not wanting to let go of the moment between us. "Well, I just wanted to make sure you're getting along with your flowers." I wink, and she gives me a half smile, shaking her head in mock exasperation. She then rolls her eyes half-heartedly, but the smile lingers on her lips. "You're really hung up on those flowers, huh?" "I'm just making sure they're living up to expectations," I reply with a playful grin. You know, it's not every day someone gets flowers, especially not from a guy who's not exactly Mr. Romance. Harley huffs out a short laugh, and it's clear she's trying to downplay the situation. She shifts her weight and then starts pulling our club sandwiches from the bag before she deadpans, "Well, I'm not sure I'd call it romantic gestures. More like a surprising level of thoughtfulness for someone who doesn't exactly do this kind of thing." I lean back slightly, and my chair creaks under the shift in weight. The sunlight coming through the window to my right catches the edges of her hair and casts a soft halo-like glow around her. The contrast between her sarcasm and the gentle, almost vulnerable look she gets when she talks about Thane isn't lost on me. "Fair point," I say, my tone lighter now. But there's something about that moment when you're handed flowers. It's not just about the gesture, it's the feeling behind it, the fact that someone's paying attention. She shrugs, looking down at her hands as she plays with the edge of the sandwich bag. I can see the change in her posture as her shoulders slightly sag, and the guard she keeps up slips just a little. The air between us shifts, and it's subtle, but the tension that had been under the surface is palpable now. We're not just talking about the flowers anymore. My Monday morning feels like it was both longer and shorter than usual. My office is quiet now, save for the occasional hum of the city far below and the occasional ring of an office phone outside my office door. I lean back in my chair, my fingers pressing against the cool, polished surface of my desk. It's been a productive day thus far, more than I expected it would be. I've checked off more items on my daily to-do list than I had the whole of last week, but there's a frustration that sits like a heavy stone in my chest, an irritability I can't quite seem to shake. I'm used to being in control and getting things done without letting anything get in my way, but now something is missing, and I know exactly what it is. Her, Harley. In the last 36 hours, I've become accustomed to her presence, her voice, the way she's able to pull me out of my mind and make everything seem a little more manageable. Today, though, the space around me feels emptier than usual, and the silence in the room is deafening in comparison to the hum of her energy that surrounded me most of the past weekend. It gnaws at me, and no matter how many reports I get through or how many decisions I make, it doesn't seem to fill the hole she's left behind. Just after 2 p.m., Griffin steps into my office, interrupting my thoughts. His ever-casual stride is noticeable even in the quiet of my office, and then he takes a seat in one of the guest chairs across from me. He looks at me briefly, his eyes narrowing slightly, and I can tell he's holding back a grin. I know him too well. "You're looking much more productive today, boss," he remarks with a slight smugness that has me narrowing my eyes at him. I don't answer him, merely giving him a slight nod. He knows I've been busier than usual today. He's not my executive assistant for the shits and giggles of it. He probably has a running tally of everything I've managed to accomplish today in the back of his mind, or on the tablet that's constantly glued to his hand. "Today's heads of department meeting at 4 p.m. is still a go," Griffin says, looking up at me briefly before turning his attention back to said tablet. "Also, the report from the lab is expected in by the end of the day. They're saying it's the final draft, so you'll be able to sign off on it once you've gone through it again." I let out a quiet breath, rubbing my temples. "Good. Make sure we have everything ready for the meeting later," I reply, my tone clipped. "And I want the final draft of the report on my desk first thing tomorrow morning. No further delays will be tolerated." Griffin nods as he taps out notes on the screen, then smirks before adding with a teasing glint in his eye, "And don't forget the annual bonus reviews coming up. Your people are looking for their usual bump. But I think you owe me a little extra this year. After all, I have to put up with you on a daily basis, which is a pretty hefty burden if you ask me." I glance over at him, my lips twitching into the smallest of grins. "If you're not careful, Griffin, you might find yourself on the brink of being fired." Griffin chuckles. "Come on, Thane. You wouldn't dare. I'm the only reason your empire still runs so smoothly. My bonus better reflect that, or I might just take my talents elsewhere." I shake my head at him, rolling my eyes. "You're lucky you're irreplaceable." Griffin raises an eyebrow. "And here I thought you kept me around for my sparkling personality." When a notification tone sounds from my laptop indicating an incoming email, I'm only able to snort at him as I lean forward to open the new message. I'm standing at the door to Harley's townhouse later that same evening, ringing the bell and waiting for her to answer, shifting my weight from foot to foot in nervous anticipation of what her reaction might be to my unannounced visit. But as the door swings open after a few minutes and I catch sight of her, I feel an unexpected calm settle over me. "Thane?" she asks, her voice laced with surprise and curiosity. "What are you doing here?" I step over the threshold, my arms laden with 3 grocery bags, not giving her much of a choice in letting me in. I can't help the small smile that tugs at my lips as I watch her face light up. though there's still that surprise lingering at the edges of her eyes. "I'm making you dinner," I reply simply, the words light but loaded with something I can't quite name. I don't know yet why I'm really here, or why it feels like the right thing to do, but I know I'm not backing down now. At my words, Harley steps aside, allowing me entry, her eyes still wide with curiosity. I move past her, through the living room and into the kitchen, and set the grocery bags down on the center island. "You're making me dinner? This is the second time in 2 days. Should I be worried?" she asks as she steps into the kitchen behind me, amusement creeping into her voice, but I can sense the warmth in her tone. She's surprised, but she's not objecting to the idea. "Yeah," I answer plainly, my voice a little softer than usual. Without elaborating, I scan the kitchen with a sense of purpose. My mind is already working as I begin pulling ingredients from the bags so I can start chopping the vegetables while putting the salmon aside. I've cooked for myself a few times in my life, but never with anyone else in mind. And yet, here I am, pulling out all the stops for the woman who has become my everything. As I work, I can feel Harley's gaze on me from where she's taken a seat on a bar stool at the island. I pour her a fresh glass of the red wine I brought with me, saunter over to her, and hand it over without a word. She takes it from me, her fingers brushing mine briefly, and I feel a small, almost imperceptible charge ignite in the air between us. Then she returns to being quiet as she sips her wine and watches me. I pull a bottle of sesame oil from one bag and drizzle it over the salmon, then reach for the freshly squeezed lemon juice and add a dash to the fillets. I glance at Harley over my shoulder as I move to season the fish. "I don't do this," I murmur, my voice a little quieter now, the tension of the day still clinging to me. "Cook for someone, I mean." She raises an eyebrow, the corner of her mouth lifting slightly. "Really? You don't say." I chuckle softly at her sass as I place the salmon fillets in the preheated pan. While I continue to work, I take a few moments before glancing over at her. She's sipping her wine again, her eyes soft as she watches me. The silence between us isn't uncomfortable, but there's something there. A weight. One I've been feeling ever since my conversation with Griffin earlier. One I can't seem to shake. "I've always been in control," I find myself saying, the words slipping out before I can stop them. "Of everything. My life, my emotions, my interactions with people." I pause, turning the salmon over with precision. The sizzle of the oil in the pan seems to fill the space between us, but I'm too focused on my thoughts to care. "But with you, it's different." Harley doesn't say anything at first, just keeps on watching me with those keen jade eyes of hers as she takes small sips from her wine. I can feel the weight of her silence, the way she's giving me space to speak without pushing me. "I've never wanted to care for someone like this before," I continue, my voice softer now. "Most of my relationships, they were about power, control. I kept people at a distance, made sure things stayed transactional. I shift the asparagus over the grill, watching it sizzle. But with you, it's different, and I don't know what to do with it." Harley shifts slightly to the side, her eyes flickering between me and the food, but she still doesn't speak. She's listening, I realize. Actually listening, and it's enough to push me further in opening up to her. A few seconds later, the salmon is done and the asparagus is grilled to perfection. I plate the food carefully, but my mind keeps drifting back to Harley. The soft tick of the kitchen clock is the only sound between us now. I glance up at her again, her eyes soft as she watches me walk over and set her plate in front of her and mine in the spot that's perpendicular to hers. I reach over and pour myself a glass of wine before sitting down beside her. Silently, we clink our glasses together while keeping eye contact. Then we both take a sip as I try to gather my thoughts. "I don't know what I'm doing, Harley," I admit quietly. "I've spent so long keeping things under control, keeping people at a distance. But with you, it's different. I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to just exist in my own world. But I also don't know how to be vulnerable. I don't know how to let go." I exhale slowly, looking down at my plate, but it's not the food that holds my attention. It's her, and the space between us. It's the way I feel when she's near me. After a beat, I look up again, and this time, I don't look away. She's still holding my gaze. her lips pressed together as if she's still processing everything I've said. The room is warm, filled with the soft light of the pendant lights overhead and the faint scent of grilled food in the air. I reach up, my fingers brushing the side of her face as I touch her lightly, and the simple contact sends a rush through me that I don't expect. I lean in just a little, my voice soft as I speak the truth I know deep down in my chest. Harley, I know this is all new, and it's not going to be easy, but I'm here, and I want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Her eyes soften, and for a moment I see the vulnerability in them that she's kept hidden until now. She still doesn't speak, but there's something in the way she looks at me that says more than words ever could, a flicker of understanding, of acceptance, and maybe even a promise of something deeper. She leans into my touch just a fraction, and for the first time, I feel like she might actually believe what I'm telling her. I sit at my kitchen counter, staring at the plate of sesame grilled salmon and asparagus in front of me. The food smells incredible, and yet I'm not sure how to feel about any of it. There's a pleasant weight to the day, like the air has settled just a little. Thane made me dinner. Thane, the vampire with a reputation for controlling every aspect of his life, just made me a simple yet delicious meal. I take a bite, and the flavor is rich and fresh. As I chew, my mind drifts, slowly unraveling the pieces of today. First, there were the flowers, and the way my heart had fluttered when I saw them sitting on the bookstore's counter. Blue irises of all things. It wasn't just the gesture that had taken me by surprise, but the fact that it was Thane who'd done it. I never would have expected him to send flowers. To anyone. But there they were, and they'd made my day brighter than I ever thought possible. Then, there was Griffin's surprise lunch. I hadn't expected him to just show up at the bookstore with takeout, let alone tease me. But oddly enough, it wasn't unwelcome. There was something about his humor, his presence, and the advice he gave me that helped take the edge off the weight of everything. And now, Thane, showing up at my door unexpectedly, cooking me dinner. This, whatever this is, feels like something I've never had before, like I'm somehow a part of his world, even when it's the last place I thought I'd fit in. I catch a glimpse of Thane out of the corner of my eye, where he's sitting to my right, watching me, but he's also silent as he slowly eats his food. I know what's running through his head. He's waiting for me to break the silence, and I will. I always do. But right now, I'm still thinking through all the weirdness of the day. The flowers, the lunch with Griffin, the dinner with Thane, the way he opened up to me while he was cooking, his vulnerability so raw and unexpected. He's never been that way with me before, but it felt different, in a good way. I'm aware that I've been unusually quiet, especially while he poured his heart out. But for once, I don't want to make light of something so meaningful by spoiling it with sass or sarcasm. Shocker, I know. It feels like the right thing to do is just listen. But my silence is starting to feel like too much, like I'm holding back when I should say something, anything. I hear him shift slightly next to me, and then he speaks, his voice low and sincere. Talk to me, Harley. Tell me what's going on in that beautiful head of yours. I glance at him, the soft light from the pendant above casting shadows on his sharp features. There's a slight curve to his lips, but I can see the tension that's lingering in his posture. I take a deep breath and finally set my knife and fork down, my eyes locking with his. You really want to know? I ask, my voice quieter than usual. He tilts his head slightly, the ever-present stoicism on his face shifting just enough to show me he's genuinely interested in my answer. Of course, he answers simply. I fiddle with the stem of my wine glass for a moment, rolling it between my fingers gently. Why the hell am I doing this? My inner voice is louder now, but I ignore it. I've made up my mind. I've never really had a healthy relationship with a guy. I start, my voice a little hesitant at first. I mean, I've had relationships, but they've never been real. Not really. It's always been about keeping control, not letting anyone get too close. And every time someone tried, I would push them away. Not that they stayed around long enough to really try, though. I laugh bitterly, meeting Thane's eyes. They couldn't handle it. The walls I put up, that is. His gaze softens, but he says nothing, so I continue. I guess I always thought that if I didn't let anyone in, I wouldn't get hurt. But it's harder than it sounds. And eventually, people get tired of trying to break down the walls, and then they leave, understandably. I pause, not sure how to continue, but somehow, telling him feels like the only thing I can do right now. The weight of everything that's been happening between us feels like it's pushing against my chest, and I don't know how to explain it. I guess that's why I, too, don't know how to do this. I finish, my voice softer now, but still firm. I don't know how to let someone in, and honestly, I don't know if I want to, because if I do, I'm opening myself up to everything that might hurt, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Thane doesn't say anything at first. He's watching me closely, his face unreadable, but there's something in his eyes that wasn't there before, something soft, but unwavering. He leans forward slightly, his voice low as he responds. "You don't have to be ready," he says. "Not all at once, but I can tell you this with certainty. Your walls? They don't scare me." I blink, caught off guard by his words that are dipped in resolve. My heart does this strange little lurch in my chest, and I can't quite make sense of it. He raises an eyebrow at my silence, and the teasing glint in his eyes and voice brings me back to reality. "You're not the first woman to have them, but I'm not going anywhere, and I'm certainly not going to let a few walls keep me away from the woman that's meant to be mine." With that, the tension between us breaks, and I chuckle softly, shaking my head. He might be cocky, but something about his words makes me feel better, less afraid, worthy of being fought for. After that, we settle into a comfortable silence for a few moments. The only sound in the kitchen, the soft clinking of silverware against plates as we finish our meal. The evening's light grows dimmer outside, and the warmth of the kitchen wraps around us, keeping everything cozy and grounded. But then, out of nowhere, Thane speaks again, and even though his voice is quiet, I catch the hint of something else in it. "I heard you had lunch with Griffin today," he says casually as he keeps his attention on his near-empty plate before him, though there's something sharp laced through his words. I look up at him, and my eyebrows raise in mild amusement. "Are you jealous, Mr. I don't do feelings?" The shift in his posture is almost imperceptible, but I can see the way his jaw tightens, just barely. "I don't get jealous," he mutters, his voice low and surly, like a child trying to hide his emotions. "But if you'd rather be spending time with him, I'll just leave you to it." I can't help but laugh, the sound ringing through the kitchen. "Oh, come on. It was just lunch. I'm not leaving you for Griffin." He looks at me then, and for a moment, it's like we're the only two people in the world. "Good," he replies, a ghost of a smile pulling at his lips. "Because if you did, I'd have to kill him." I freeze, my hand halfway to my wine glass, as Thane's words hang in the air between us. "Because if you did, I'd have to kill him." I blink, not sure if I heard him correctly, but there's no mistaking the sincerity in his voice. I glance up at him, arching a brow as I let my lips curl into a teasing smile. "You wouldn't dare." An ominous chuckle rumbles low in his chest, and he leans back slightly in his bar stool, crossing his arms over his chest. His eyes darken as he watches me, something predatory flaring to life in his gaze. "Oh, I would. For you, I'd do just about anything." I shift slightly, suddenly feeling the weight of his words more than I expected. His voice, so smooth and intense with a tone that's dipped in dark chocolate, has a way of settling into the pit of my stomach, then spreading lower into my core. His gaze locks onto mine, intense and unwavering. It's almost too much to handle, this pull between us, this electricity in the air that seems to pulse with every beat of my heart. I want to look away to sever the moment, but I can't. My body won't move, and my mind feels like it's trapped in the heat of his stare. I feel his eyes on me like a physical weight, watching me, seeing right through every shield I've ever built. It's both thrilling and terrifying, the way he makes me feel exposed, raw, and yet something else, too. Safe. Why is that so hard to admit? "What if I don't want you to kill him?" I reply, keeping my voice light, but it's a challenge, and I feel his gaze sharpen as I speak. "Then I'll settle for making sure he and every other man on this planet knows who you belong to," he says, his words dripping with something dangerous. "And trust me, no one's going to forget who that is." He punctuates the sentence with a smirk, and my breath hitches, caught in the undertow of his words. I try to laugh it off, try to downplay the way his possessiveness makes my pulse race, but my voice comes out quieter than I intend. You really think that's going to work? You're going to mark me like I'm some mine, he interrupts, his voice softer now, but no less confident. I would, and I think you'd like it. I open my mouth to retort, to give him a snarky reply, but the words get stuck in my throat as his gaze drops to my lips. It's like the air between us thickens, charged with something hot and primal. I can feel the heat crawling up my neck, spreading to my cheeks, and my heart is suddenly beating louder than ever before. What if I like the idea of you marking me? I ask, my voice low, barely controlled. I know I'm playing with fire. I know I'm baiting the beast that is Thane Draven, but I've never been accused of having a good sense of self-preservation, so I might as well enjoy it while it lasts. My words hang between us, charged with a dangerous kind of anticipation. There's a flicker in his eyes, something predatory, and I can feel the shift in the air, like the temperature's risen just for us. Maybe I'm tempting fate, maybe I'm asking for trouble. But fuck me, in this sexually charged moment, there's a part of me that wants to see just how far this wild game of ours can go. Thane doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he leans in closer, his elbows resting on the counter's edge as he tilts his head, studying me with that slow, voracious gaze of his. His lips curl into a teasing smile, and his voice drops an octave lower. You think you can handle what I'd do to you if you like that? He asks, his tone laced with something dark and tempting. His eyes trail over me, making my skin flush and goosebumps to follow in their wake, like his gaze is physically touching me. I can feel the weight of his words, but it's the heat in his eyes that gets to me, that makes me forget how to breathe. Because if you do, Harley, he adds, his voice softer but no less dangerous, don't think you'll ever be able to run from me again. His words stir something inside me, something that isn't just physical, but profound, a craving that's been building since the moment he walked into my life. My heart races again, and my fingers tremble against the base of the wine glass. I push it away slowly, forcing myself to stay calm, but it's no use. Thane knows exactly what he's doing. I stand up abruptly, grabbing our empty plates, needing space, needing distance, before I completely lose control. I step around him, but Thane's eyes never leave me as he smoothly swivels around on his bar stool. And even though his expression is unreadable, the tension in his gaze makes my pulse spike. What's wrong, Harley? Getting cold feet already? His voice is a low rumble, carrying an edge of amusement, but it's the quiet intensity behind it that sends a shiver up my spine. His gaze locks onto mine, and the space between us feels charged, like the world has paused just for this moment. I freeze. The air between us shifts again, thickening this time with a weight that presses in on my chest, and I can't look away from him even if I tried or wanted to. Before I can react or answer, though, he reaches out, grabbing my left wrist with a firm but careful touch. He doesn't stand, just tugs me gently, but with undeniable strength, pulling me towards him until I'm caught between his spread legs, coming to a standstill right in front of him. With his left hand, he slips the plates from my other hand and places them on the counter off to the side with a soft clink, all while not breaking eye contact. I don't even notice the sound. My focus is entirely on him. His now midnight blue eyes are trained on me, dark and unwavering, like he can see straight through me, as well as down to the depths of my soul. His grip on my wrist loosens slightly, but he doesn't let go. Instead, he snakes his left hand around my waist and pulls me closer, his chest lightly grazing against mine, the heat of his body radiating through me. My breath hitches, caught in the intensity of the moment. The proximity, his warmth, his presence, is almost too much for me to bear, and I inhale sharply, feeling the pulse of tension that's thick in the air. He leans in even further, his lips now dangerously close to my ear. Are you trying to run from me, Harley? He murmurs, his breath brushing against my skin. I shiver, the intimacy in his voice striking deep, making my heart race even more. I want to answer him, to tease him back like I usually would, but my words catch in my throat. The silence between us stretches, heavy and charged, and I feel the space between us collapsing in on itself with every passing second. After what feels like forever, I'm able to take a shallow breath and then start to lean into him. The distance between us vanishes, and I realize, without a doubt, that I'm not running from him. Not anymore. The moment Harley starts closing the gap between us, her torso pressing against mine, I feel the world narrow around us. The simmering heat between us intensifies exponentially as I breathe her in, her scent of jasmine and vanilla filling and flooding my senses, sharp and intoxicating and addictive. She's close, a hair's breadth from me, and yet the lack of distance between us is still not enough. It's impossible to ignore. I've been fighting my desire for her ever since I woke up in her living room, keeping it contained. But now, as she breathes and writhes against me, it's breaking through in tidal-like waves. I'm fighting for control. But with every second that passes, it feels like my usually iron-shackled self-restraint is slipping away. I know I'm not going to last much longer if she keeps looking at me like this, if she keeps reciprocating my desire-filled kisses, if she keeps responding to my touch with that softness, that sweetness, that's innately her. A low growl slips from my throat, unbidden, and I hate that she can feel how much I want her. She might not know the depths of it, but I can't mask it now. Not anymore. Not when she's this close. My left hand finds her neck, my fingers brushing along her jawline as I tilt her head back with my thumb, giving myself more access to her. The feeling of her pulse beneath my fingers is almost too much to bear, yet not nearly enough. I pull away from her just enough to speak, my voice low and hoarse. You don't know what you're doing to me. It's not a warning. It's a confession. The hunger I feel for her is raw, unrefined, and I can't stop myself from leaning into her again, this time my lips brushing the soft spot on the crook of her neck, where I would mark her, claim her. Her breath hitches, and I feel the tremor that rushes through her body, and the urge to sink my teeth into her, to claim and own her, becomes almost overwhelming. My fangs ache like never before, but I restrain myself. For now, the air between us is thick with unspoken tension, heavy with the intensity of the moment. His one hand is resting gently on my waist, the other weaved between my locks of hair, holding me close to him as his eyes search mine. There's a rawness in his gaze, an intensity that sends a thrill through my chest, all the way down to my heated core. Every time our eyes lock, it's as if I'm being pulled into something deeper, something I can't escape. And right now, I don't want to. Thane's presence surrounds me, all-consuming in its intensity, and I know I should be cautious. But in this moment, the instinct to pull away from him feels like an impossible feat. I can feel the power that's thrumming in his body, the way he's leaning into me, almost as if daring me to take the next step. My heart pounds in my chest, my breath shallow, as I realize I've reached the point of no return. I've spent so much time second-guessing myself, overthinking my every move, my every step, trying to figure out the right way to navigate not just this thing with him, but my entire life up till now. But in this moment, as I look at Thane, his intensity, the heat in his gaze, the way he makes me feel, I know this is it. This is the moment where I stop wondering about the what-ifs and start living with what's right in front of me. Everything in me is telling me that I'm not wrong about him. There's a strength in him, a depth that's unlike anyone I've ever known, and for once, I'm not afraid. For once, I know I can't let this slip away. Fuck it, I think to myself, the words a quiet resolve in my mind. This is happening. Without another thought, I drop to my knees before him. My hands find the bottom of his dress shirt, my fingers slightly trembling as I pull it from his pants waistband. I catch the briefest flash of his toned golden abs beneath, and the heat in his gaze makes my pulse spike. Thane watches me intently, but there's a softness there too, a vulnerability I wasn't expecting. Yet it makes me feel more exposed, more connected to him than I ever have to anyone else before. I can't take this tension anymore, Thane, I whisper, my voice low and thick with desire, as I look up at him. His presence overwhelms me, and I want to drown in every inch of him. Thane's lips twitch into a small smile, though it's darker now, edged with something primal. Don't worry, he murmurs, his voice thick with desire, and his gaze never leaving mine. I've been just as tortured as you. I can feel the weight of his words pressing against me. This isn't just about our physical connection anymore. It's something more, something deeper that neither of us has fully acknowledged until now. His hand gently brushes my cheek, and I lean into it instinctively, my eyes drifting closed, feeling the call of his touch. His fingers are rough, a little calloused from the life he's led till now, but the way he reverently strokes my skin sends a shiver down my spine. I breathe him in, the scent of his sandalwood and vanilla cologne mixing with the warmth of his skin, and the moment feels intoxicating, surreal. Opening my eyes, I meet his gaze again, and my breath hitches as I realize just how much I crave him, how much I've been holding back. His jaw tightens slightly, the intensity in his eyes increasing. Do you really want this? His voice is low and raw, as if the words are dragging themselves from him. I can see the struggle in his eyes, the internal conflict between wanting to take control and allowing himself to let go, probably for the first time in his entire life. Right before I slip my hands beneath his clothes to pull them off, Thane exhales sharply and his hand runs through my hair, but it's not his usual commanding touch. There's a tenderness in it now, a gentleness that surprises me in this desire-filled moment. You don't have to do this, he says, his voice strained, the heat between us still palpable. We can stop. But I don't want to stop. Not now. Not with everything between us so charged, so electric. I lean into him again, my lips lightly brushing against the skin just above his waistband on his left hip, then the right one, and the tension between us rises another notch. He's trying to maintain his control. He's trying to keep himself composed, but I can see the strain around his eyes. And that's when I know. I'm the one pushing him. I'm the one making him lose himself in this moment. With me. I don't want to stop, I say, my voice hushed but full of intent, as I peer up at him from beneath my lashes. Thane's breath hitches again, and for a moment there's a long pause between us as we search each other's eyes. It's as if time stands still for just a second, say, while the air around us is thick with anticipation. His hands move and cradle my face from both sides, his grip firm but careful as he stares at me worshipfully. He wants this. He wants me. But there's something more in his eyes, something deeper. I can see it now, the vulnerability, the raw need that's bottled up beneath all the control he constantly tries to maintain. And it makes my chest tighten. For a fleeting moment, I wonder if he's just as afraid as I am, afraid of what happens after this. But in this moment, none of that matters. I push aside my fears, my doubts, and my own need for control, and I make my decision. I'm in this, fully and completely.